there was no signs of forced entry. The only thing that was a little bit odd at Dublin was the screen that was leaned up against the wall. And then at that point is when I start really uncovering what was going on with speaking to Arden and seeing the text messages of the communication you had with them as far as how they let you into the house and that process.
Okay.
Hi, this is Attorney Mike Gravlin. This is continuing coverage of the Trevor Summers criminal trial. This is live right now.
I mean, it didn't have a label of what it was. I mean, it looked like an office to me as far as it had a desk and, you know, chairs inside. But it wasn't like a bedroom or a kitchen. So I'd say office would probably be the best guess, but it could be accurate. I don't know.
And did you happen to observe any of the documents or files that were laying around in that office?
If there were files laying around, I couldn't tell you if there were documents around or not at that point, other than what we're doing. We're interviewing the children and taking pictures of their phone, of Arden's phone as she's scrolling through that. But I couldn't give you any information about anything else that was in the room.
Okay. After you left the Newberry residence, you did not return to that residence, correct?
No, sir.
Okay. And after you received the bulk of the information from the victim, did you return to the Newberry Grove residence to see if anything corroborated any statements made?
I did not respond back to Newberry. There was no indication of anything occurring at Newberry for this investigation.
Okay. Do you think that there could have been any documents or files based on all of the information that you received that could have been located at Newberry?
Objection, Judge. Speculation.
It is a speculation. Not a question. It's not to speculate.
So then, after you finished interviewing the children at the Newberry Grove residence, you then returned to the 1412 Dublin?
Correct.
And you were there while the first photographs were taken?
No, I was not.
Okay. Were you there at all when anything was photographed?
The subsequent day on March 14th and on March 16th, those are the photographs that I would have been involved or around for.
Okay. Did you
Can you guys hear?
the photographs in this case? All of the photographs that were taken?
I have seen the photographs at least at some point. Yes, sir.
Okay. May I share some of those photographs with you to ask some questions?
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm starting with set 1, A1, if you want to.
All right.
Does that help?
Publishing A2, set 1. Mr. Steele, this is the photograph taken in the evening of March 12th. And is that approximately what it looked like when you were there earlier? That
I would say that's a fair and accurate representation.
okay.
The witness knows better than him what needs to be done.
And publishing photo A98, set 1. And Mr. Steele, this is a photograph taken that same evening of the master bedroom. And have you seen this photograph before?
I have seen that photograph. Yes, sir.
Okay. And publishing A95, set 1. Mr. Steele, this is a photograph of items in a trash can. Did you see that photo before?
Yes, sir. At some point, I would have seen all of these photographs.
Okay. Return these, Your Honor, and then going to select the photos that using sets 3, A1 through A22.
This is A3, 122?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So Detective Steele, on March the 14th, when you arrived at 1412 Dew Bloom, this is the condition the house was in when you arrived, the exterior.
I would think that accurate, fair and accurate representation. Yes, sir.
And who was there when you arrived?
Miss Summers. No, I'm sorry, Miss Elisa.
Miss Mathewson?
Yes.
Okay. And anyone else there?
Myself and Detective Remy are the ones that responded, but I don't know have any knowledge of anybody else
Okay, so she met you there by herself?
as far as I can remember.
Okay. Sure. Publishing set A3, I'm sorry, set 3, A4. Detective Remy, there's a ladder there by the front door. Do you know where that came from?
I don't think it matters a whole ton. I'm Steele, so
I'm sorry.
You said Remia, but
Detective Steele.
would you ask me if I recognize the ladder?
Yes.
I don't recognize it per se, but I could make an assumption as to whose it is and why it's there.
Do you know how it got there?
My understanding or belief would be that would be from our maintenance staff that went to repair the door at the residence after we forced entry into it.
Okay.
If you want to know where he's going, I don't know.
And publishing set 3, A8. Detective Steele, can you tell me what that is a photograph of?
It appears to be a photo of the master bedroom.
Okay. Is that the condition when you arrived?
I believe that'd be fair and accurate.
Okay. Do you notice the difference between that photograph of the master bedroom and the one I showed you previously?
Yes, sir.
Do you know who had been in the house prior to you cleaning the house up?
Well, to answer your question, before me being there and from the other incident, we had multiple investigators that were there at the scene. This is while I was at home asleep, that would have been collecting evidence and impounding items and taking pictures and videos. I can't tell you their names without looking back to read their supplements individually, but I wasn't a part of that process.
Okay. So you don't know if anybody cleaned up the house before you arrived?
We don't clean up, but if you're talking about the sheet that's missing off the bed, we would have impounded that. I'm just not sure what you're trying to make reference to right now.
Okay. We'll look at another set of photographs in a moment. Publishing set 3, A19. Detective Remy, those are 2 scarves that were collected at that time you were there on March 14th. Is that correct?
And just to clarify, I'm Steele, and if it's not a big deal, I don't
I'm sorry.
correcting.
You two are very similar in my mind. I apologize.
Okay. And I'm sorry, your question was whether or not they were collected that day?
Yes,
Yes, they were.
they were. Was it 2 or 3?
From the picture, I would say 2. I'd have to look back to refer to distinguish between 2 or 3.
Do you know if a third one was taken into evidence?
Not without looking back at the evidence list.
Okay. Do you have a copy on you?
Potentially.
If you do, could you refresh your memory?
I can try to. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I do recall now.
Okay.
It was 2 scarves.
Okay. Did the victim tell you there were 3 scarves involved in this incident?
Not that I recall.
Not that you recall. Do you recall if she told you that she had her hands bound with one scarf, her feet bound with another scarf, and her mouth with a sock and another scarf? 3 scarves?
Without going back to the interview or the transcription, I wouldn't be able to tell you that for a fact.
Would you like to take a look at your records to see if you have any?
Do you have a copy of the transcript for me then?
No, sir. If you did not bring it, I'll withdraw that question.
I don't have a copy of it.
It doesn't know how to impeach a witness.
And I'm going to return these photographs.
Probably best because he's just not helping himself. I'd impeach you, but I don't have the transcript.
And
Yes.
Detective Steele, do you recall seeing the photographs that were taken on March 13th of 1412 Dew Bloom Road?
I would have reviewed them at one point, yes, sir.
Okay. So this is the front of the home.
I'll be
Right.
honest with you, I couldn't distinguish for sure which day we're looking at right now. So if it's marked appropriately, then I would assume to be accurate. But I couldn't tell you for sure that that's that particular day from looking at that picture.
Okay. Assuming that this is the accurately marked by the state as the photographs taken by, I believe it's Mr. Becker.
Okay.
Then
Yeah, he skipped that day at law school.
Yeah,
I don't believe that's.
And all the other days too.
You would need to look at A1 to determine what day it was and what crime scene investigator was there.
Okay. Mr. Summers, do you want to retrieve this set A1 set? I think it may have a thing on the front of A1.
It's right here, Judge.
Oh.
It was Detective Bridwell.
Who?
Detective Bridwell.
Bridwell.
sorry. Yes. Okay. So Detective Bridwell would have been the photographer here. Is there caution tape in front of the house?
Yes, sir. I believe that's what that yellow line is.
Okay. Was this house supposed to be protected from anyone entering for a certain amount of time?
Oh, while the crime scene is up and while there are people present, yes, sir.
Okay. And when was this house released from a crime scene status?
I would not have been there for that. I would have been home, so I couldn't tell you that.
Okay. In the last set of photographs, the crime scene tape was still up when you arrived on the 14th.
Yes, sir. I wouldn't say that that's inaccurate.
Okay. But you said Miss Mathewson was there when you arrived?
Yes.
Okay. Was she in the home?
I believe I recall meeting her in the front of the residence, like in the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, she wasn't in the home when I got there. No, not that I recall.
Publishing set to A8.
He sure is not.
And Detective Steele, this would be the master bedroom again, correct?
I would believe that to be accurate.
Okay. And there's a, I'm sorry, do you see a significant difference between the first set of photographs I showed you on March 12th and this set of photographs, which are recorded to be taken on March 13th?
If you're trying to distinguish between the initial incident, the overall photographs before any search or any impounding has ever occurred, This one?
Yes.
Is that, am I understanding correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Then yes.
Okay. And do you see a difference between this photograph taken on March 13th and the photograph I showed you that was taken when you arrived on March 14th?
Yes, there are differences.
Is the room cleaner, tidier?
I couldn't recall without looking at the two of them together. And again, I'm just looking at photographs. I wasn't actually there for either one of these, at the time. So as much as I've seen the bedroom on other occasions, I can't necessarily testify to what they were when I wasn't there, other than, like I said, referring to photographs.
Okay. Do you have a recollection of what the house of 1412 Duplin looked like when you entered it on the 14th?
It would have been consistent with the pictures taken by Detective Ramirez. Or, I'm sorry, CSI, Crime Scene Investigator Ramirez.
Okay, so Crime Scene Ramirez was there before you arrived?
No, she would have been, I think we called her to the scene, so she would have come shortly thereafter.
Okay, so these photographs I'm showing you now, taken by Crime Scene Investigator Ramirez, would be reflective of the condition when you arrived?
If that's what you have, because I thought a second ago you said Bridwell, unless you changed and I missed it.
I'm sorry, the last set that I showed you by Crime Scene Investigator Ramirez would be consistent with your recollection of the March 14th.
I'm sorry, just to make sure we're abundantly clear, anything that Detective Ramirez took on that date would be consistent with what I saw.
Okay, terrific, thank you. I'm going to return these photographs. So Detective Steele, could I ask you then, after viewing all those photographs, when you arrived on the 14th, did the house seem to be in a clean order?
I guess it depends on your definition of clean.
In comparison to the times you were there before. One of the first times you were there, your report noted that it did not seem to be signs of a struggle. Is that correct?
Are you referring to the welfare check when I went in at that time?
Yes.
I'd have to refer back to tell you exactly what my verbiage was. Would you like me to do that?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I only got to see about 30 seconds of the direct, and then I had other stuff, but I haven't seen this guy remotely shaken yet about anything.
Okay. So on March 12th, during the welfare check, I noted that it appeared to be in disarray, but no obvious signs of a criminal incident, like there was not a body or a large pool of blood or something to that effect that would indicate that had occurred.
So your report said that there appeared to be no signs of a struggle. Is that correct?
No, sir.
Are we referring to the same report?
I believe so. You could tell me what page you're looking at, and I can verify we are.
Yeah, page 170
Okay.
of 705.
I'm sorry, what is that?
170 of 705, where you say, you could check it and let me know.
So yes, sir, we are referring to the same page.
And so the middle of the first paragraph
Okay.
is your statement. Upon doing so, I noted no people or obvious signs of a struggle.
I'd have to look back to make sure. Sure, on the same line.
Oh, for the love of God, this is so awkward.
My apologies. I do have that in that paragraph.
Okay, thank you. When you say no obvious signs of a struggle, what would indicate a sign of a struggle?
Well, so what I would be looking for is, again, whether it be the blood, weapons, or anything like that. Again, at this point, I have no knowledge of what has occurred other than the preliminary information of when you put her back in the carts at Walgreens. So I have no idea what I'd be looking for or at the Dubloom address. So as far as my overall my experience, I was looking for, like I said, a pool of blood, a large weapon of some sort or something like that. But to say, I would probably say it was overstated to say there was no signs of a struggle, because I believe, as you can see from the pictures, it would be difficult to say that considering the state of the room.
Yes, the master bedroom. Those photographs, yes, were taken by your detectives at various stages of, like you said, your investigators collecting evidence. So therefore, would you say that that particular room changed from photograph to photograph?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you notice of any marks in walls or dents or damages to walls or
I guess his theory is the house wasn't
I
messed
the
up
scene
enough for this to
so I
happen.
wouldn't have been doing those things. And again, at the point we're talking about the welfare check, we're going in and we're making sure there's not a dead person or a dying person there. We're not doing a search of, taking pictures, of doing video, of documenting marks on a wall or things like that. Those are things that once we obtain and secure a search warrant for the residence and we're doing an actual thorough search, that's when we would be doing that documentation.
Yeah,
I
but they're
wasn't
both
part of
good.
that particular event.
okay?
If that makes sense.
Yes, that makes sense.
Mr. Summers, let me just say, you speak very softly, and that's absolutely fine. But I have trouble hearing you some. Either get closer to the microphone or speak louder. It's up to you.
Sure. Detective Steele, as we were going through those photographs, there were a number of items that were collected into evidence, and there were a number of items that there were another number of items collected into evidence that you were able to test if you wanted to, correct?
Why? Okay, so I myself don't do any testing of anything. So if you're talking about the items that I requested crime scene investigator Wagner to do a pre-screen on, yes, there were items collected that I then later had her do the pre-screen of those items.
Okay. In the first set of photographs, there were some things in the trash can. Do you recall that photo?
Unfortunately, you probably have to go back to the photo. I'm not sure which one. There was one photograph with like some bottles and some string in the trash can.
Yes.
Okay, and what was the question again? I'm sorry.
Do you recall that photo?
I do recall that photo. Yes.
Okay. And do you recall if any of those items in that trash can were tested for any kind of DNA or fingerprint analysis?
I would have to assume not, because again, the items that I know of being done were the items that I had crime scene investigator Wagner do the pre-screen on and send in, as well as the items from the vehicle and things like that. So
Okay.
those particular, are you referencing the strings or no, those not as DNA collected touch DNA and sent in? Is that your question? I'm struggling to understand a little bit.
Yes. I'm asking if any of the items in that trash can were tested for any kind of fingerprint analysis or DNA analysis.
Not to my knowledge, no.
If the rope had been tested, could there have been a result of a DNA analysis?
Speculation.
Objection, Judge, speculation.
Also stated as speculation.
In your capacity as a detective, have you ever tested rope that was that someone claimed to be bound with to see if there was DNA evidence of that story?
No, sir. I don't do anything like that. I'm a detective. We go to the scene. We document the items at the scene, and there's investigators, crime scene investigators that do any processing or things like that. So myself, I have never done what you're talking about.
Would you have requested a crime scene investigator to conduct an analysis of rope for DNA?
Have I before? Yes.
Okay. And did you do that in this case?
With those particular items, no.
Okay. But you did say that you can apply to have additional items tested if there was a need.
Well, until
Makes sense.
Until the process where they have identified a suspect, I'm not aware of any further beyond that. Again, I'm not the Florida Department of Law Enforcement myself, so I can't speak to their exact
Exactly.
policies and procedures. But once they have an identification, they're effectively done at that point, unless you're talking about a different scene or a different circumstance. Because once you have a suspect identified, like in this case, the DNA being 1 in 700 billion times more likely to be yourself, Trevor Summers, they don't continue to test everything that I could possibly send them. No.
Okay. If there was the opportunity to test additional items to corroborate the story of a victim or a defendant, do you believe, or is that something within your authority as an investigator?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I got the question out of that. Could you?
Do you have the authority, as a detective, to, or let me ask it this way, excuse me, or rephrase. Do you have the responsibility as a detective to investigate every opportunity for the claims made in an investigation?
It's kind of a generic, broad brush statement, but I would say yes. We try to investigate and follow up to the best of our ability on everything that we can.
Okay. In this case, after hearing a variety of statements, a variety of claims, did you fully investigate all of the evidence that was made available to you to see if that evidence supported the statements or the claims made?
Yes, and if you're talking specifically about those strings, they would be very consistent with the ones that were on Elisa Summers' right arm when she was pulled from the vehicle. Yes, at some point you can't just empty the trash can on FDLE's desk and say, here, process everything. It doesn't work like that. You have to, have a reason, a justification for wanting a particular item processed.
Okay. Were there other items that you saw in the evidence list that were not tested for any kind of DNA analysis or fingerprint analysis?
Yes, the evidence list consisted of several hundred items. So no, not everything was sent for pre-screen or to FDLE. Okay.
And if some of those items were tested, do you believe, if some of those items were tested and contradicted statements made, would you continue your investigation?
Yes, we did continue our investigation. And again, I'm just trying to understand exactly what you're asking, because in some of these items that were sent to FDLE, the pre-screen process had negative results on some things, but it doesn't mean that a crime didn't occur. It just means that there wasn't evidence on that particular item. So finding evidence on a particular item, that is proof of the incident occurring. So I don't know what additionally you'd be trying to, not every piece of evidence is going to have DNA or prints. Some do, some don't. Not everything I touch do I leave a fingerprint behind or do I leave my DNA behind on it. But some things that I do. So again, we don't send everything to FDLE. We don't pre-screen everything. We do it to the point where we have an identified suspect, which in this case was yourself. And it was a positive identification as far as the DNA process from FDLE. So no, I don't send. Again, I think you're trying to ask me why didn't I send everything that I have to FDLE? It's not physically possible. I would still be investigating this case from 2017.
I understand that. I'm asking if there were certain statements made by the victim or myself that to make sure that those statements were true, if you would have tested other items to verify that.
Well, how about can you maybe make reference to what you're
Let's
talking
say
about?
the pink bed sheet. Could you have tested that to see if there were any kind of rope fibers or any kind of DNA of the victim on that to verify if she had actually been wrapped up in a pink sheet and bound?
Again, now we're talking. We could send everything potentially, but that's not physically possible. Again, FDLE's only got so many investigators, and they're the people that are the experts in analysis for every case in Florida. So no, they would not be okay with me sending, every item that I impounded to them for processing.
Okay. Did you review the results of the by Francesca Montgomery O'Neill?
Do you have a particular page you're talking about? Because that name doesn't mean much to me right now, but it doesn't mean it wasn't on a report from FDLE or somewhere else.
Yes. I'm asking if, as the lead detective, if you reviewed the results from your lab technician, Francesca Montgomery O'Neill.
I don't have a lab technician by that name. So my assumption would be that you're talking about someone from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, that I would have to refer back to those reports. And if you had the report you're talking about, that would make it a quick and easy refresh.
Do you have a copy of the entire police report with you?
I don't
Yeah,
have
but he
it
doesn't.
out for me. I have all of my supplements here, and I have a PDF I could try to peruse through. But if you're referencing a certain report, do you have that report too?
I'm just asking if you recall reviewing the results of that report.
I reviewed the results of all of the reports from FDLE at some point.
Okay. And do you recall if the results of the report regarding the rape test or rape exam produced any kind of results indicating myself as a donor?
I would have to look back at that report to be able to tell you that. I don't have that knowledge off the top of my head.
Okay. Were there any other reports that you reviewed that required you to do any further investigation?
I'm not I'm trying to follow you. So as far as additional follow-up from things that we learned, again, we have the cell phone that Arden provided to us, and we got the photographs from that cell phone device, and I followed up with getting the actual conversation from Google, and any other there was video surveillance retrieved from deputies that were at the scene originally and said, we believe there's cameras at this residence. I followed up with that. So it's kind of a general statement. I'm trying to understand
Not
what
really.
exactly you're trying to ask me.
Okay. Did you recover Elisa Mathewson's cell phone from Manatee County?
I was with Manatee County when we went and recovered that cell phone, the iPhone. Yes, sir.
And did you have that tested for any kind of fingerprint analysis?
No, we did not.
You did not. You just did you assume then that the statement about who touched that phone or who threw that phone was true?
The victim advised it was her phone, and she advised that you had thrown it, and I had nothing to say either way. And on top of that, it had sat out there for a day or two at that point. I have to look back to refresh, but it was sitting out, and so processing is less. It wasn't exactly a sterile environment to say that anything would be preserved from that. But no, it was not sent in or processed for fingerprints. That is accurate.
Okay.
That's dicey.
Approximately how long did you look for my cell phone?
I don't have a time document in my report. I know it wasn't an hour. I would say maybe half hour would be a pretty fair estimate.
Okay. And did you review the phone records from the Cellbrite report on Elisa's phone?
I reviewed any reports on any of the phones at some
Okay.
point.
Do you remember specifics, or would I have to have the report?
If you're wanting me to recall what the report is thousands of pages long, I don't have very specific detail for you without knowing what you're referencing.
Okay, no problem. That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Any redirects from the state? Yes.
Oh, hallelujah.
So
Well,
I
that
think
was
you had
pointless.
stated, that you had put in your report that there were no signs of struggle at the residence. You didn't see blood. You didn't see a weapon. Would it be fair to say you didn't see any broken glass? Things like that that would immediately draw your attention to a struggle.
That is accurate. I believe that's what I was trying to depict in the report.
Okay. Based upon the statements made to you by Elisa Mathewson, looking back at how that room appeared and how the living room appeared, is it consistent with the testimony that she provided to you?
It was consistent. Yes, ma'am.
Nothing further, Judge.
Mr. Summers, did you want to keep him around just in case still?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. You may step down. You're not going to be released as a witness. What I'm going to instruct you is,
Oh, good
can
Lord.
you be within less than 30 minutes recall if we want to bring you back? Okay. All right. That way you won't have to stay here. You can go someplace else, but just so that if we give you a call, you can get back in about 30 minutes or less.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. You may step down. I know you have some more in a video, but it's 2:30. So we're going to go ahead and take a short break. Please do not discuss the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. Please do not do any research related to the case. All rise for the jury. Jury has exited. Everyone may be seated. Ms. Johnson, I forgot to ask you if you were ever able to determine how long the defendant's statement is
Yes,
after
Judge.
editing.
And I told him before the lunch break it's 37 minutes and 27 seconds.
Mr. Summers, did you have any issue with that?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. So is that what you intend to do when we come back to play his statement?
Our final witness, Judge.
I'm sorry?
Our final witness.
So you're going to call the witness, and during the testimony of that witness, you're going to, it hasn't been introduced yet, or has it been introduced?
That's the one thing that has not been introduced.
All right, so you introduce it to the next witness and publish it. All right, excellent. So then we'll obviously take another break, and then we'll discuss, see what time we're at, and be able to discuss your case. All right, have a nice break.
Well, that's interesting. Okay, so this officer came on. He cross-examines him, gets nowhere with it. The prosecution is offering a witness statement, but I don't know who the witness is. But it must be, they know the time frame, so it's going to be a video. And if they're closing the case with it, it's going to be a banger. I would guess. I mean, they have lots of good evidence. So, I mean, you're saying, yeah, you want to close with something good that the jury remembers. Ooh, so I'm kind of interested, but I'm guessing it'll be a video. I hope there's volume. I'm doing the best I can. I've adjusted the volume. I've adjusted the volume on here. I had to jack it up with a little application I have, but then that tends to make things that tends to cause echo. Am I echoing right now? Rick, see, it's about damn time. I was wondering when you were going to pull the trigger. Okay. All right. I think we're just going to chill here. I don't know how long this break is. I don't know how long the break is, but now I got to know, because if that's their last witness, then they're going to rest. Although I don't know. So it's 2:30 there. I don't know. I wonder if they'll flip it over to this guy to. He doesn't. I don't even know if he knows this, that his case in chief would come up next. So then he would get to present witnesses. That's why I was asking the officer if he wanted to keep him around, because he probably named him on his witness list, probably because he doesn't know what he's doing. I doubt he has anything new. Theoretically, he can only ask the officer questions, the police officer questions on cross-examination that were brought up on direct examination, and then he could theoretically call him and then ask different questions. But he doesn't understand the subtleties of what I just said, or anything else for that matter. So I highly doubt he's going to recall the police officer, but he did say keep him here, so the poor guy's got to sit around within a half hour of the courthouse. Oh, thank you. Super chat break. I love it. I love it. All right, now I got sucked into this. I didn't even know about this case, and then everybody started asking me about it, and then I'm like, okay, I'll just look at it. And then I did a video, and then I was like, okay, I have to know what happens. I have to know. I mean, I know what happens. Well, I don't, but I've got a strong suspicion how this thing is going. I've got a real strong suspicion based upon the bits I've seen so far. And as Judge Middleton would say, I see jail in your future. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I didn't see most of the trial, so maybe if he had a good defense, he hasn't presented it. And what I've seen so far is him cross-examining people, and that's a big part of how you get your defense out, is you show weaknesses in those witnesses. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I think I'm just gonna leave it run here. I'm going to take a little break myself. I'm just going to leave it up though. I'm not going to close it and then reopen a stream. I just want you to know I'm literally going to take a break. But I'm here listening, and as soon as this thing pops back on, we're rolling. But I don't want to close it down, because I might start back up in 3 minutes, and that'd be silly. So we might sit here for 10-15 minutes, and then as soon as I hear something cooking, I will be back at it. All right. So I'm checking out. Mikey would represent it better, because Mikey's cute. Everybody loves Mikey. That might be in the agenda. That might. Oh, thank you, Sandiel. I appreciate it. All right.
I'm just going to assume that the jury is ready for us. Is the defense ready? All right, let's get the jury. Well, everyone, once you rest, I'm obviously going to have to give them a break at that time. I was just, I'm going to give them a break at that time, and then at that time, I will tell them to figure out how late they are willing to go tonight. All right. But depending on where we go in your case, Mr. Summers, we don't have to go as long as they say they can go. I'm not changing about that. I will give you the night to decide whether you want to testify or not. Uh-huh.
Sergeant Steele did let me know he was officially off tomorrow.
Okay.
So if
Well,
he could
no,
be
if
called
you're
today.
going to call Steele, then if they rest, right after they rest, we'll take a break. And then if you're going to call Steele, that would be the time to do it.
Yes, I can call him right after this next witness.
Well, I'm still going to do a break after they rest, but he can be your first witness. So if you all want to, he's not calling him to bring him back, but he said he'd be within 30 minutes. If you want to bring him back to the courthouse because he's going to call him as his first witness, that's fine.
He just went to grab lunch because he was
Perfect.
He didn't have time to go get lunch, so I told him to go get lunch.
Sounds perfect. Yes, we are.
All right, jury hearing for
Jury is present and seated. Everyone else may be seated at this time. Gentlemen of the jury, welcome back. We're going to pick up where we left off. I'm going to ask the state to please call the next witness.
The state would call Sergeant Remia.
Sergeant Remia. Good afternoon and welcome. Wherever you're comfortable, if you'll face me and raise your right hand to be sworn. Thank you. Do you swear affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right, if you'll follow the bailiff now to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair, please watch your step. Go ahead, have a seat, make yourself comfortable. That microphone in front of you is fully adjustable. Ms. Johnson, you ready to
Oh,
take
Lord.
Sergeant, can you please state your first and your last name, spelling your last name?
Edward Remia, R-E-M-I-A.
And how are you currently employed?
I'm a sergeant with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office.
In what area?
Currently, criminal investigations.
What kinds of crimes do you?
Yeah, it's off on mine.
My current squad, we investigate shootings.
The audio and
Anytime
video.
someone becomes a victim of a shooting, my squad will respond, as well as select sex offenses.
And what was your assignment? I'm sorry, how long total have you been employed with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office?
17 years.
And what was your assignment back in March of 2017?
I was a detective with the homicide section.
Did you become involved in an investigation with a listed suspect of Trevor Summers?
I did.
When did you initially become involved in that investigation?
It would have been March 12th, 2017.
And did you receive an assignment at that time?
I did.
And what was your assignment?
Initially, I was given a list of telephone numbers, and my assigned task was to run down those numbers to find out who they belong to.
Did you in fact do that?
I did.
Did they assist in furthering your investigation at all at that point?
My portion of the investigation, no, I got that information related on. As far as I was concerned, it was done for me.
When you initially arrived or when you got called to respond on March 12th, did you receive some initial briefing or initial information about what kind of investigation was being done at that time?
I did.
And what kind of investigation was it?
It was investigation into a kidnapping.
Okay. After you followed up on calling some phone numbers, did you receive those phone numbers from supervisors?
I did.
What was the next thing you did?
After relaying my findings, I was tasked with retracing a route or a possible route of travel from someone leaving the Walgreens in Fishhawk, and I did that.
And leaving the Walgreens in Fishhawk, and where was going to be the end of your route?
County Road 39 in Lithia.
Is that still located within Hillsborough County or a separate county?
It's in Hillsborough County.
Did you in fact do that?
I did.
And what was the purpose of traveling that route?
I'm looking for any possible cameras, any residences or businesses that had
Yeah, I
cameras on
know.
them, or possibly finding any of the vehicles we were looking
Did you find any of the vehicles you were looking for?
for. I did not.
Did you find any businesses or residences that had surveillance cameras that could possibly be of value in your investigation?
I did not.
What was your next assignment?
After tracing the route, came back to the command post, updated them on what I had, and then from there, I responded to a location in Manatee County.
Did you have an investigative lead at that time that drew your assignment to Manatee County?
Yes.
And so how or what were you supposed to do over in Manatee County?
Well, given the fact that that location was suggested as being a place where the people we were looking for may in fact have been, that was the responsibility, was go down there and find out if they were there.
And did you drive over there?
I did.
Were you looking for the listed Saturn SUV at that time?
I was.
Were you looking for any kind of surveillance video footage that could assist in the investigation?
Yes.
Was this daytime or nighttime on the 12th?
Daytime, I believe.
Okay. Did you find anything that would have been provided any investigative leads with regards to this?
Ultimately, I found a location there, sign on the gate, fencing type area indicating who owned or was responsible for the property, called the phone number to see if we can gain access to it because it was a gate, was locked or chained or combination thereof. And I think I called the number and left a message. I don't know if I spoke to somebody right away or not.
Did the individual ever respond back with any information that gave you any further leads in your investigation?
Yeah, eventually I spoke with was responsible for the property. I think that initially I spoke with someone who owned the property, and then they referred me to land hand or somebody that had access to it. Got us out to the property. We were able to take a look around, find out if there were tire tracks, vehicles, people, anything on the property that was not supposed to be there, and none of that existed.
What was your next task?
From there, return back to the command post, report what we find. In this fact, there was nothing. And then given another task of retracing the route again to make sure we weren't missing anything and finding any other cameras.
Did you locate any businesses, residences that possibly had any cameras?
There was one that we found down in Manatee County that had cameras on it that we eventually got access to the camera system on there. But prior to seeing the footage, we saw the business with the camera and ultimately saw the footage, but the case had developed somewhat quickly after that point.
Okay. Was that where was specifically was this camera?
It was on a business. It was in the Duet area. I don't remember the name of the business. That was a somewhat nondescript business that was there.
Was this the Bunker Hill Road business or a separate, different business?
It was near Bunker Hill Road, if not on it.
Okay. Was there anything at that point that had
How?
given you any investigative leads at that time?
No.
Were you asked, and was that in the daytime or the nighttime?
Daytime.
Okay. At some point, are you asked to drive the route once again?
Yes.
Okay. And is this still on March 12th that we're talking about?
No, the final time that we drove it was, or that I drove it was on March 13th.
Okay. Before we get there, did you do a drive there on March 12th?
I did.
Can you describe this area of Manatee County that you keep doing this route to?
Very rural. Cattle fields. I don't think there was any orange groves, but it was very few houses, very few structures. I think there was even I don't know if it was a phosphate mine. I'm not up on.
Is that better?
Very large crane. I mean, it was big. in that area, but not a lot of residential property out there. No one's living nearby.
Okay. When you went out there, did you see any people around, anything like that?
Nope.
When you said the last time you responded was the following day, the second day that you were assisting in this investigation on March 13th,
Correct.
and you did the same route from the Walgreens to this Manatee area.
I did.
And were you alone or with anybody?
I was with Detective Steele on the 13th.
Okay. And I assume, was this daylight time you responded back in the morning hours of March 13th to the host and got next assignment?
Yes.
And when you responded back out there, since it was daylight, were you able to ascertain any surveillance video footage?
Yes. We knew a camera existed. This is what I previously mentioned. It was on a business, nondescript business. We didn't see the footage at the time, but it did exist and we were able to get it. I think Detective Steele was able to get it later.
Okay. Have you since viewed that video footage?
I have.
Did that video footage, are you able to make out any vehicles, any people with regards to
You can see that vehicles travel by, but as to what type, make, model, color, no help whatsoever.
Is that because the surveillance footage that had originally been requested was from nighttime and the headlights were flashing right towards the camera, so it
That's
really
correct.
blurred out
That
any
is correct.
vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that video, is it safe to say that didn't offer any further leads in the investigation?
Correct.
What happened when you and Detective Steele, now Sergeant Steele, were heading back to Hillsborough County from Manatee County?
We received word that the Blue Saturn was located in the Ruskin area, I believe it was, and we were given a location and we headed that way.
And did you respond to the area that you had learned that the vehicle had been located?
We got close, but prior to us arriving on scene, deputies had made contact with the folks in that car, so there was no need for us to show up specifically. We went back to the District 4 office.
And did you receive your next assignment there?
I did,
And what was that?
to respond to the hospital,
And what hospital was that?
Tampa General.
And were you aware if Detective Steele was remaining at the Criminal Investigation Division, otherwise known as CID, to interview the victim in that case?
Yeah, the location, I'm not sure where he did the interview, but I know his task was to interview the victim.
Okay. And so did you respond to Tampa General Hospital?
I did.
And what time did you respond to Tampa General Hospital?
Approximately 20 minutes after noon.
So 12:20 p.m.?
Yes.
And what did you do when you arrived at Tampa General Hospital?
Located Mr. Summers in one of the ER bays and spoke with the hospital staff to find out what his condition was. I know he'd been injured during the course of the arrest, I believe, or prior to the arrest. And ultimately, my task was to speak with him, conduct an interview.
Before you went to Tampa General Hospital, did you speak to anyone to get some initial information that had been learned since the victim had been pulled from the vehicle?
Yes.
And who did you speak to?
It was Deputy Nick Cruz, Cruz.
And so you spoke to him prior to going to Tampa General Hospital?
Correct.
Okay. At the time of your arrival to Tampa General Hospital, did you go in and meet with the defendant immediately upon your arrival there?
How would I put this? Eye contact, or saw that he was physically there. Then I spoke with the hospital staff before I spoke with him.
Why did you do that?
Find out extent of injuries. Could he talk? Could he not talk? Was he on medications? Was he available to talk? I was not aware of the extent of however he was injured. So making sure that he didn't have any medical care going on that we could actually speak to him for.
And were you aware that it was a self-inflicted wound to his neck prior to your arrival?
Yes.
After you spoke to medical staff, were you cleared to go in and have conversations with the defendant?
Yes,
And did you do that?
I did.
And can you describe the defendant's demeanor when you made contact with him?
It was calm.
Do you see him here in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you please point to him and describe an article of clothing that he's wearing?
Sitting at the table with the gray sweater, white collared shirt.
Please let the record reflect he has identified the defendant.
Records also reflect.
Was any other law enforcement present while you spoke with the defendant?
Yes, there was.
And who was there?
Deputy Don Hess, Hess.
Did you conduct, even though you spoke to a nurse and questioned her about his ability to communicate with
Deputy
you and
Don.
take part in an interview, did you also go and assess him?
I did.
And is that something that you typically do as a detective who's conducting interviews of individuals who may be under the influence of narcotics, alcohol, may have some mental illness or suffering from something that would prevent them from providing a coherent interview with you?
Yes.
And when you spoke to him, what did you ask him?
I identified myself first, who I was, what I was there for, asked him his name and explained to him what I was going to try and do or what I would like to do. And then we turned the recorder on and we had a conversation.
And after you connected the initial conversation with him, did you feel that you could go forward with your interview at that time?
Yes.
During the interaction, subsequent to asking those initial questions, was your entire interaction with the defendant captured on recording?
The entire, no. Anything as far as asking questions related to the accusation and the crime at hand, yes. There was a brief conversation prior to when I initially identified myself prior to putting him on tape.
Okay. And at any time, did it appear through that interview that the defendant did not understand your questions, did not appropriately respond to your follow-up questions, anything such as that?
No.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Sergeant, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit Z for identification purposes. Do you recognize this?
I do.
How is it that you recognize it?
My initials and my ABN number are written on it.
Is it a fair and accurate recording of the interview that took place at Tampa General Hospital on March 13th of 2017 with the defendant, Trevor Summers?
It is.
State offers in evidence State Exhibit Z.
Mr. Summers?
Just object to all previous objections.
Okay, same rulings, so it will be admitted at this time.
Judge, the special instruction would need to be read at this time.
No, it's up here somewhere. Again, members of the jury, you are about to listen to an audio recording. The court instructs you that the recording has been edited to eliminate irrelevant portions that would not add to your understanding of this case. The fact that the recording has been edited should not concern you in any way and must not impact the way you listen to and consider this evidence. You may publish.
Okay, this is Detective Remia of the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, conducting interviews on case number 17-17669. Today is March the 13th. It is approximately 13:10 hours. The subject of the interview is Trevor Summers. Trevor, would you say your full name for me and your birthday?
Trevor Stephen Summers. Sorry about that.
Okay.
If you can hear me. Trevor Stephen Summers. June 20, 1977.
Okay. And also present for the interview is Deputy Hess. That's what you're in.
202-995.
We are currently sitting in one of the emergency room bays at Tampa General Hospital. I think it's Bay 5B in the trauma section. Trevor, before I came in here and turned on my recorder, I told you I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what happened this weekend.
Sure.
Okay. And before I ask you any questions, because you are in custody, because you're not free to leave, obviously, when you're in the hospital, but you're in our custody, I have to advise you of your Miranda right. I'm going to read them to you, and you tell me if you understand them, okay? You have the right to remain silent. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You understand that one?
Yes.
All right. You have the right to consult with an attorney before you make a statement or answer any questions, and the right to have an attorney present during questioning. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay. If you want an attorney but cannot afford to hire an attorney, one will be appointed to represent you before and during questioning free of charge. You understand that?
Yes.
You may use any of these rights at any time before, during questioning, and you may stop the interview at any time. Understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you understand all these rights as I've read them to you?
I do.
Okay. Are you willing to answer my questions and make a statement without a lawyer present?
Yes.
Has anybody coerced you or promised you or threatened you or said anything of that nature to get you to agree with me to answer my questions?
No.
Okay. We'll start pretty basic. If you don't mind just telling me what happened.
Let's see. Friday night, it started a while ago. It started back in January when my wife started online dating.
Okay.
I got upset about it the day I found out. It was a Wednesday in middle of January. I was upset because she put pictures of my kids on the online dating website,
Okay.
as well as where she worked, which allowed her to have people easily find her. She came over that day to my house. I asked her to please take it down. She did take pictures of the kids down, and then she took off where she worked. But she wouldn't take the dating profile down.
Okay.
She said she had put it up just to meet men in general, make friends. And then a couple weeks later, I found her on another dating website, and I asked her about it. She said she didn't mean to leave it up, and that she would take it down, and that she wasn't dating, and she was just talking to a few guys. A couple weeks later, she came over and talked. We were in the middle of talking about a marriage settlement agreement. So she came over on a Friday night before Valentine's Day. We talked for a while, no issues, everything was good. She admitted to going on a date and kissing a guy and going back to his house and watching a movie or something. She came over the next night, Saturday night before Thanksgiving, or Valentine's Day. And we talked a little bit, but she was tired, so she asked me to she laid in bed with me and asked me to just hold her. So I did. And she left, no issues. We went out to dinner on Valentine's Day, went back to her house, talked, kissed a little bit. Everything's fine, no issues. She asked me to leave, I left.
This was at her house?
Yes, her house.
Where'd you go for dinner?
We went to Mitchell's, I think it's called Mitchell's Seafood in downtown Tampa by the West Fort Mall. I think it's Westfield Mall, maybe? No, it's not Westfield. Down off Kennedy Boulevard.
I think I know where it's at. It's okay though.
There's a Maggiano's there, I know that too. That Friday night after Valentine's Day, she came over. We were talking more about the marriage settlement agreement, different components like, time sharing with the kids and monetary and alimony and all that stuff. And we ate dinner. She admitted to more dating stuff. And before she left, we had sex. That's Saturday. Let me go back. Valentine's Day, my older two kids, who are 12 and 14, were complaining about her being texting and video chatting and stuff. And I asked her to please not do that around the kids. And she convinced me that she wasn't doing that. It was just platonic. It was just friends.
Okay.
And so I told my kids the next day on Wednesday, this is what mom said. Just, you need to believe her. And my son, who's 12, didn't believe her. And they were with her that weekend. That Friday night, he took her phone and took pictures of everything in her phone. He sent me a few things and just told me, look, I told you so. What I saw was a lot more than dating. She's actually telling guys she loved them, and I don't know, it's a lot more than what she led me to believe.
Sure.
She came over that Saturday, I don't know, around 1:15. I asked her about this stuff, and then she started to admit about it. She said she regrets it. She's gonna end it. We had sex. Then mobile notary came. We reached an agreement on our marriage settlement agreement. We had a drink. We walked around, talked about and possibly even just finishing divorce and starting over. We had sex again for hours. Fell asleep, woke up. I made us some dinner, and I didn't know how the day was going to turn out. I was pretty upset with her when I found out all this stuff. I'd actually had a machete just in my bedroom, and when she didn't want to keep talking, I got it out and told her we need to keep talking. I didn't hurt her or anything.
Why would you if you just wanted her to talk, why would you bring a machete into the conversation?
Just so she would stay and talk. So I threatened her with it.
When you had the machete, did you say anything specific to her?
Just sit on the bed. Let's keep talking. And she did. So we calmly talked for, I don't know, 3 hours or so until about 10 o'clock. And she left. I let her leave, but she promised me she was going to end it with this guy. And
What day was this?
this is February 18th.
Okay.
She actually called the police that night,
Mhm.
rightfully so. I wasn't forthright with them about everything that happened. I used the excuse that she was making this up to get me put in jail. So that following week, we got restraining orders, or not restraining orders, temporary injunctions against each other.
Correct.
The kids were with me. Everything fine with that. I'm just giving you cliff notes. There's a lot more detail.
That's okay. I appreciate the background. It helps me to understand kind of what's going on. But specifically, when you want to go into more detail about Friday, Saturday, Sunday, this week.
So my kids have been complaining all week that they wanted to see her. I really didn't want them to see her because she's been lying to them about the dating and the guys. And I convinced my daughter to let me come say bye. I was literally going to leave town Saturday. So I convinced my daughter to let me in to say bye to my wife.
And this was this weekend?
Friday night. It was really Saturday because it was 3 a.m. Saturday.
Okay.
So my daughter left the window open for me, my 14-year-old daughter. my son rode with me. Youngest kids were with her, and the youngest one was actually at home sleeping at my house. So my kids and I were communicating, two older kids and me were communicating while I was there. My wife, I was trying to wake her up because I didn't want to start with the two little kids that were sleeping with her. Finally, she did wake up, freaked out a little bit because I was there. She knows I'm not supposed to be there because of the temporary injunction. I just made her go in the living room, sit down on the couch. She fought with me a little bit. I fought back. So I got.
When you say you made her go in, would you yell at her? What did you do?
No, I put my arm around her waist and walked her into the living room.
Okay.
That's why I got scratches on me. She calmed down, and I just explained, I really can't deal with all this. I'm just going to leave town. And I explained how years ago I put a lot of money away, offshore accounts. I was going to go just live in the islands. So we argued, and then she calmed down, and we argued, calmed down. Finally, around 5 o'clock, my two older kids were still outside. They're like, we're tired, we want to go home. I've been teaching them how to drive. So I had them come in. They're already angry with their mother because of the lies she was telling them.
Okay.
So they took the two little kids with them, and they drove my car back to my house in Riverview.
Okay.
From Valrica to Riverview.
Which one of them drove the 14 or the 12?
14. And I stayed with my wife. We talked, and then we fell asleep, and then we talked, and we fell asleep. I think on Saturday all day. Mainly we were in her room. Well, let me go back a little bit. I was going to go with my kids. I was going to drive them home to my house. But I said, you're going to call the police as soon as I leave. And she said, no, I promise I won't. I said, well, I don't trust you. So I said, I'm going to have to tie you up. So I'm going to tie you up. I'll call somebody, let them know you're tied up. By that time, I'll be gone. Well, I didn't think I tied her good enough. So I walked outside with the kids. By the time I got back inside, she was already mostly out of the.
What did you tie her up with?
Just some rope, some nylon rope. That's a nylon rope on her body, and then I found some strings of Christmas lights in the garage and tied that to the bed around her.
Okay.
So I came back in, and she was halfway out, and she just freaked out. And I said, well, obviously, I didn't do a good job. I said, there's just, let's keep talking. So we talked and talked, ate some food. The whole time, I didn't understand. She didn't try to run out of the house, out of a window. She took a couple cigarette breaks. My head's just spinning. I'm like, I don't know. And then we had sex 4 times, consensual. It wasn't forced, nothing. Completely consensual.
Well, forgive me, but I got to ask, if you guys are in the middle of getting a divorce and separating and divvying up property into kids and what have you, that would lead me to believe that there's issues between the two of y'all. But the way you're explaining it, where you guys would have sex on a regular basis,
I know.
I'm confused.
This is what messed with my head, and I think this is what broke me mentally. Was she's telling me she loves me, she's telling me we can work it out, we're having sex, but then she's dating, but then she wants to go full with the divorce. So I really can't explain. She'll have to explain why she's back and forth like that. Like I said, we fell asleep for at one point for like 3 hours. She could have got up and left.
Mm-hmm.
She just call the police, anything. But she didn't. That's why. I don't understand. I don't understand that. Finally, around 8 o'clock, I was like, all right, I gotta go. I gotta go say bye to the kids. And I said, you gotta give me time to leave to get out of here. And she said she would. I said, okay, I'm gonna tie you up again. And she willingly let me tie her up. So this time I put her hands to her sides and wrapped her in a sheet first, and then tied the rope around that. And then she said something that made me mad, and I said, well, what are you gonna do?
What did she say to make you mad?
Something about she's gonna press charges against my parents, and my oldest daughter is going to go to jail for letting me in, and our son's going to go to boarding school or something. And this is not their fault. They had nothing to do with this. I convinced them. It's nothing. They're not part of this. Our son's had a problem with her since she left in October, because when she left him at home. So he's had an issue with her since then, and he spent most of his time with me during the separation.
So you're at the house. You getting ready to leave, tie her up, wrap her in a sheet.
Wrapped her in a sheet, tied those ropes around her again, and then tied those to the bed. Then she started mouthing off about this, that, and the other. I said, I can end this right now. And I just grabbed the pillow and put it over her face, and I just listened to her, and I couldn't do that.
When you said you could end this right now and grab the pillow, what were you going to do?
Well, I was just being an ass and, pretending like I could suffocate her.
So you put the pillow over her face or no?
Yeah, I put the pillow over her face.
How hard did you press down on her?
Yeah, I just held it with my hands. And then,
But she's tied up at this point?
yeah, she's tied up. And I took it off and I said, can you just relax? Can you calm down? And she said, you know what? Why don't I just go with you? And so I said, you really want to go with me? You want to leave the country with me? And she said, yeah. I said, okay. I said, so, let's pack a bag. So I went to the garage, grabbed the suitcase, she went in her closet, her drawers, put everything, just some stuff with her.
Did you had to untie her for that, or she got out by herself?
And I got tired.
Okay.
And so I said, all right, let's go then. You really, I said, the kids will be fine. Our pastor and his wife could take care of them, or my parents. I said, the kids will be fine. I said, really, they don't deserve either one of us. We're both bad parents. And she agreed. And so then we got everything ready. She got her purse ready, grabbed her phone, charged her phone. And I said, well, are you going to, I said, you going to do anything dumb? I said, should I at least tie your hands so you don't do anything dumb in the car? And she's like, yeah, you can tie my hands. So I tied her hands behind her back. We walked out front door. I helped her get in the passenger seat. I went back inside, grabbed a few water bottles, got her suitcase, locked the door.
Whose car was this?
Her car.
Is that the Saturn?
Yeah. And she'd actually been feeling a little sick. She was in Pennsylvania the weekend before, visiting her grandma and her parents and family. And she caught a cold or something. So her nose is running and she's not feeling good. She had actually taken a little medicine while we were, some cold medicine while we were at her house. But it was all gone. So I said, well, do you want me to stop at the store? We'll get some more. She's like, yeah. So I, go walk in and then I look out and she's running around the parking lot.
Now, let me ask you this. Her address, that's the one in Brentwood Hills, or is that your address?
That's her. She's in Beverly County, yeah.
So that's where you went in, that's where you tied her up, that's where everything happened at.
Yeah.
How did you end up at the Fishhawk Walgreens?
That's the route I took to get to my house. She was going to go to my house first.
And where do you live at?
Riverview. Newbury Grove Loop, Riverview.
What subdivision is that?
Panther Trace.
Okay.
So, I said I'd stop at Walgreens and get her some more, over the counter cold. And, I just walked in, looked her, turned back, and she's running around the parking lot. So I grabbed her and put her back in the car. And I said, "What are you doing?"
When she was running around, you saw her. Did anybody see you go out and grab a hold of her?
Yeah, there was I think it was an employee.
Did anybody say anything to you?
No, he didn't say anything, but I think he dialed the police
What did you say to her when you grabbed a hold of her?
and just said, "You need to get back in the car." You know, he told me, "You go, knock this off. You're going to get us in trouble. Get back in the car." So I put her back in the car. So her hands were still tied. So I put her back in the car. Put the
Her hands tied in front or behind her?
behind her. Put the seatbelt back on her. And then there was an extra piece of string hanging off, so I tied that to the seat. Closed the door, got back in, said, "Okay, we're not getting cold medicine." And I said, "I'm pretty sure he called the police, so I don't think we can go to our house now, so we're not going to be able to say bye to the kids." So then I took a meandering path. Gosh, I can't even tell you the roads I took. I know we went south and then east and then south, and I ended up going through Arcadia to Route 70, down, got to Bradenton, and then I took a right on, I don't even know the road, but I saw a couple side streets, like dirt roads.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Look, I'm dead tired. I can't make it to the marina."
What marina were you going to?
I was going to go to Little Harbor and catch a charter.
Did you have something set up already or no?
No. But I knew a couple people there that could get me to. There's a whole thing where immigrants come in and out. And so I was going to catch a boat to the islands and go from there, make my way over to St. Kitts and Nevis.
Right. And you didn't. Nobody was waiting on you with a boat to go. You were going to secure all that when you got there, or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just pulled down this road. There was a little clearing, like a construction company had some old equipment there. I parked there, and we both went to sleep.
I'm pretty sure you said earlier that you went down State Road 70. Are you sure it was State Road 70?
Yeah, let me back up. Before we got to Arcadia, there was, I don't know, maybe a 64, 62. There's another road that runs, I think, parallel with 70. Because we went west on it, and I turned down one road there, and we shut our phone off. So our phones were going off with restricted calls, so I figured it was the police. So I threw her phone in the woods.
Do you remember what it looked like where you threw her phone? Was there a signage? Was there a
No.
bridge? Was there?
It's a little dirt road with one of those cattle gates, maybe 500 feet down the lane.
Okay.
Threw her phone and then headed back east on that same road, a couple miles, turned down another road, which was a paved road. Then it turned into a dirt road. It was a bridge with a stream. I think it was a farm back there. It was right before a firehouse. So I went down, turned my phone off, and threw my phone in the woods.
Okay.
She got out of her, at that point, she got out of her wrist, I tied her up by her wrist.
Right.
And she's like, "Can you please just let me out?" I had tied it tight. Had the knife, or not a knife, I had a little utility knife razor blade. And I wanted to cut her off her wrist, and I cut her wrist.
Was the intent to cut her wrist or just to cut the restraints off?
I was cut the restraint off. I missed, and it didn't go deep. I don't think it went deep. I didn't really look at it real close, but she bled a little bit, and then she got in the car, and I took the ropes off, the strings off her. It's really like a string. It's not really a rope. And then she just felt pressure on it. It stopped bleeding an hour later, but initially it was a good amount of blood. Her sweater sleeve soaked it up. That sweater's in the car. After that, we drove, I don't know how many miles east on that 62, 64, whatever it was. And then we hit 17 and went south on 17 until I hit 70. There was a traffic light there in Arcadia, hit 70. Drove west on 70 for a while. We passed Anthem Ridge, which is a housing community down there. And then it's not a hard right. There's like emerging, like a self-sweeping right to go up this other road that takes you back up through Parish to like 301. I think maybe it connects to 64 or 301. That's where we pulled off. And we slept.
Was she tied up at that point?
No, I didn't tie her up anymore.
Did you have the machete with you?
No.
Just a box card?
Just that little, yeah, it's a utility blade for a utility knife. That's all it was. And then we didn't really bring enough water with us. We fell asleep Saturday night there, woke up. She could have got out of the car in time again and just ran. I mean, there was a house 1,000 feet from us.
Right.
I'm sure people lived there if the lights were on at night.
So you're under the impression now that she wanted to be with you, or she was okay being with you?
She was okay. She still wanted to go with me, leave the country. So, Sunday morning we woke up. We didn't have anything else to eat or drink other than like some dried cranberry crackers. But I didn't want to drive under daylight. So I said, I'm pretty sure, there's calls from the police. I'm pretty sure they're looking for us. And I told her, I don't know what you want. I really don't. I'm confused. I don't know what you want. Do you want to go with me? Do you want to stay here? Do you want to just go back to our house and tell the police this was all a mistake? I said, what do you want to do? And she couldn't really think of what she wanted to do. And she just said, no, I want to be with you. I said, okay, well, where? Here or in the island? And she's like, well, I really want to be with the kids. So then we talked, started making our story on what we would tell the police.
How did you end up at Little Harbor?
I'll get to that. We had sex on Sunday
In a car?
in a car. I gave her oral sex. She had an orgasm. We had regular sex. She had an orgasm. I said, I don't get it. We're together. Everything is good. Our love life's good. And I kept telling her, this dating while you're still married, going through divorce. You broke my head. I asked you for the truth, and tell me the truth. So by sundown, we were both really thirsty. We had a few empty water bottles in the car. We walked, cut across the stream, and got all muddy, and walked all the way up a farm road around a big field. And we found an outhouse that had a big gallon of good water in a sink. We filled our water bottles up, drank some water, filled them up.
And whereabouts was this?
It was right next to where we parked the car.
And that was off of 301 somewhere, is that right?
Not 301. There's a road that runs north and south between 70 and either 64 or 301. And a lot of farms out there. So we walked down the field and got water, went back to the car, talked a little more, fell asleep for the night. And then we said, let's leave around like 5, 6 in the morning. We'll head towards, first I said, let's go to Anna Maria Beach. So I think there's a charter we can get there. And then she's like, I really don't want to go now. So now she's going back to just wanting me to drop me off, and then she's going to go back home. And I said, why are you changing your mind again? So we drove back down south to 70, took 70 to 75, up to 64. drove all the way into Anna Marie. Right before Anna Marie, there's a boat ramp there. We parked. Sunlight starting to come up, and she wanted me to write out some things. And she said if I did that, then she wouldn't tell the police anything. So I wrote out, that she can have the house, the car, the money, whatever I left here. She said, so, and then she wanted me to write or no, she didn't want me to do that. Then we drove around Amrion, all the way up to the north side, down the bay side, looking for the charter. Couldn't find it. I knew there was one in Little Harbor that I could take. I said, well, so let's just go back up to Little Harbor. So I drove back down 64, took business 41 over, caught back up with 41, turned down the road off of 41 to Little Harbor. And then she wanted me to find a spot to pull over. She wanted to talk. So I pulled over in Little Harbor. And I think she saw somebody or something. She's like, you better just write a confession out because they're going to get caught. I said, probably are. So I said, I really want you to go with me, and she just wouldn't go. So left Little Harbor, drove down to the end of the street, pulled in not an abandoned, probably a rental house or something, parked underneath.
Did you know whose house it was? You didn't.
No,
it's not your house.
Just
Somebody
a random. No, just a random house. There wasn't any cars there, so I just turned underneath, and I just figured somebody's going to be there soon because she has OnStar in her car. I don't know why it took them so long to find us. And then I said, I can't kill you. I can't hurt you. I said, I can't live this life, I said, so I'll lay my life down for you, and grabbed my little knife and started cutting my neck.
Was that when the deputy showed up?
Yeah.
Okay. It was a pretty good job of putting it all together. I got a pretty quick picture, so I appreciate that. There's only one question I have. And while you were at the house, while you were at her house, which I'm guessing is the house that at some point you all shared, yes? Or did she move out of the house?
Yeah, she moved out of the house.
Okay. So at her house in Brentwood Hills, when you had her tied up, did your parents come by that house?
No.
So your parents never came by? Did anybody else come by?
No. Just my kids are outside in the car.
So the whole time that she's tied up, the kids were either outside in the car or they took the car and went to your house?
Yeah.
But nobody else came inside the house?
Yeah, no, I didn't tell her that my kids drove the car. I told her my parents had picked them up.
Okay. So you told her my kids are gone because your mom and dad got them?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't want her to freak out about the kids driving the car.
Well, I guess that would have said a little bit.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? I mean, why couldn't you just walk away from her? Why did you have to tie her up? Why did you have to go break into the house? Sneak into the house, I guess would be a better way to say it.
Well, I snuck into the house just to say bye, and I just wanted to.
Even though she's got an injunction against you and you have one against her.
Yeah. Because, I don't know, the things she's told me in recent weeks and the way she's acted, you still think there's a hope, a chance, something.
But her using dating apps and what have you, dating other men or seeing other men or doing whatever with other men, that's what's upsetting to you.
No, it's upsetting that she kept lying about it.
And not the fact that she's dating, but she's lying to you about it.
Right.
Because you're all in the process of divorce, it is what it is.
Yeah.
What's the reason for the divorce itself?
She said I have abandoned the marriage.
What about, you said earlier something about money and offshore accounts. Do you still have money out there?
Yeah.
Is that what you would, if you were able to leave the country, is that what you would have used to kind of sustain yourself for a while?
Yep.
How much money you have?
$4.5 million.
How much?
$4.5 million.
$4.5 million. What exactly do you do for a living to make $4.5 million?
Years,
In a long line of work.
years ago, I worked we started a commercial development company. I put a lot of money offshore.
Is there anything else that you want to say or anything else that I haven't asked that you think is important?
I explained to my wife how, not just with me, but, with the guy she's dating and other guys, the way she says things and does things makes me think different than what her intentions are. So either she's.
I think she's naive.
No.
Let me do this. Because they got to come in and I think they got to get information from you for the hospital and whatnot. So, is there anything else in regards to the weekend, the trip down to Manatee, the throwing up in the house, the Christmas lights, the kids, the drive, or anything else that we haven't discussed or I haven't asked? You feel that everything you told me is accurate and is complete?
It's all accurate. I can get into details about specific conversations if you want to.
I think we'll worry about that here in a bit. The last thing I'll ask is, everything you told me is true. Right? You're not lying, you're not exaggerating or what have you.
No, it's accurate.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to close the interview at 1:50.
Okay.
Wow. What a debacle. Unbelievable.
So, sir,
I mean, he just
your,
admitted everything.
Interview with him began at 1:10 p.m. and ended at 1:50 p.m.
Excuse me. Yes, ma'am.
And the location that he states that he threw the victim's phone, did you have did you assist in any further investigation with regards to that? Are you aware where her phone was ultimately found?
Yes, I assisted with that portion of it.
And was that the location in which her phone, or Miss Elisa Summers' phone, was located?
Yes.
Is that when Miss Summers took you to that location?
Yes.
When you were in that area doing that drive multiple times, night, daytime, did you ever see a house in the Manatee area 1,000 feet from where they would have been parked?
No, I did not.
After you concluded your interview with the defendant, what did you do? Did you update Detective Steele with regards to his statements?
Yes.
Did you assist Detective Steele then in driving to the Manatee County area with Elisa Summers? And is that when you ultimately located her phone?
Yes, it is.
Did you, were you also there when Elisa took you to the area where she believed the defendant had disposed of his phone? Did you have an occasion to respond to the Bloom address on the?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the purpose of your responding there?
We met with the victim and her parents. And while we were there, she was pointing out additional items of evidence.
Were you aware whether or not the first search and documentation and collection of the scene, was that done prior to locating the victim and defendant? Was that done on the 12th? Or are you not aware?
No, I'm not for sure, but I would assume it was.
Were you requested to respond back on the 16th to retrieve any other items from the victim's residence?
Yes.
And what were those?
A gray long sleeve shirt with a Mickey Mouse emblem on it. And also a pink bed sheet.
And did you collect those items?
Yes.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
With regards to this investigation?
My sister was trying to pull footage from Walgreens, although I did not take possession of any footage from Walgreens.
Okay.
And that's it.
I would pass the witness, Judge.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, here we go. He's going to fix it all now.
Good afternoon, Detective Romeo. First question I wanted to ask is, have you testified about your taking of my interview in a related court hearing?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And when you were asked if I was sedated, do you recall what your answer was?
No.
If I showed you a copy of that related transcribed hearing, would that refresh your memory?
It would, but it's also going to depend on the validity of that transcript.
This is one done in a related court hearing where you testified on behalf of the state.
I recall testifying. The point I'm trying to make is it an official transcript of the testimony?
Yes, it is.
Then it will refresh my memory.
This is related court hearing lines 3 and 4. Is your memory refreshed?
It is.
And so we may ask you again, what was your response to that question?
The question that I was asked was Mr. Summers sedated? My answer was, I don't know.
Okay. And also, Detective Vermia, in a court hearing, did you testify as to whether or not you spoke with a doctor when asked about whether or not I should be interviewed? Do you recall what your answer was?
I recall the testimony, but I don't recall the specific statements or answers. So
May I refresh
something
your
that would
memory?
refresh that memory would be great.
Okay. The question is, did you speak with a doctor when you interviewed me? This is lines 17 and 18 of a related court hearing.
Oh Lord, the worst. I mean, it's so awkward as an attorney to watch him.
Is your memory refreshed?
Yes.
Okay. Detective Remy, what was your answer when asked if you spoke with a doctor before questioning me?
No.
And what was your answer today?
Did I get asked? Did you ask me if I spoke with a doctor?
The state did ask you if you spoke with a doctor, and you gave a very long response.
What was my response?
The response was that you spoke with multiple doctors, that you wanted to make sure that.
Objection, Judge. Mischaracterization of his testimony.
Well, I'll instruct the jury that what the parties and/or attorneys say is not evidence in the case, that you should rely on your own recollection of what the testimony was and the evidence is in the case. You can ask the question, though.
Okay. Do you believe your statement today was different than your statement in a related court hearing?
No, I believe the purpose of the statement or the gist of the statement is true and accurate in both. Whether I spoke to a doctor, physician's assistant, nurse, or what have you, more of a classification of a medical personnel that were tending to your medical needs. And if I mischaracterize them as a doctor as opposed to a nurse or a physician's assistant, then that's an error on my behalf. However, the purpose was to state that I spoke with an official medical personnel so I can get an idea of what your condition was.
Detective Steele, or Remy, sorry. Were you responsible to investigate any of the statements made during that interview?
I'm sorry, I don't follow your question.
Were you responsible to investigate to see if any of those statements made were valid or true?
No, that would have been the responsibility of then Detective, now Sergeant Steele.
To the best of your knowledge, do you know what your standard operating procedure is when questioning someone who is incapacitated or in a hospital bed?
Yes, to answer your question, I do.
Okay. Can you tell us what the standard operating procedure is?
Can I quote it to you? No, sir, I can't do that. But what I can tell you is that the general procedure is to ensure that the person you're speaking with is coherent, can understand the questions you're asking. If you're advising them of their Miranda rights specifically, make sure they understand those rights and they're in a condition they do understand them.
Did you see me before the surgery?
I'm not aware that you had any surgery.
Did you notice a large cut and stitches and bandages on my neck?
Correct. Again, I think we're probably going to differ on our definition of getting stitches in surgery. So
Okay.
if you're referring to the time where you were stitched, I saw them while they were stitching you up. Yes, sir.
Okay. So did you interview me while I was being operated on?
No.
Did you? So then you didn't. Did you see me before I was operated on?
Yes, I saw you well, and again, operated in stitches. I saw you while you were being stitched. I saw you while you were in the hospital bed, and actively being stitched or worked on is one thing. My interview, my point of asking you questions, did not occur until the medical personnel were done with their procedure on you.
Okay. Do you recall what kind of condition I was in when you did the interview?
As far as what?
Medically, what do you recall what I looked like?
Yeah, you look very similar than you do now, except you had stitches on your neck.
Your Honor, may I use the photographs?
Oh my God, this is the worst attempted impeachment I've ever seen in my life.
No, sorry, yes, Your Honor, I have exhibits V 1 through 10.
V? Okay.
Publishing V2. Detective Remia, does this look similar to the condition you found me in when you conducted the interview?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Are my hands tied to the bed or handcuffed to the bed?
Yes.
Do you know if my feet were handcuffed to the bed?
I'm not sure.
Do you know if I was awake when you interviewed me? Or when you first, before the interview started, do you know if I was awake?
Yes, you are.
I'm sorry. He doesn't anticipate anything.
Thank you. And the only other question I have, Detective, is or is it your responsibility to alert the appropriate authorities about the immigrants coming in on the boats?
Is it my responsibility to alert authorities about immigrants coming into the state of Florida? No.
Okay, that's it. No more questions.
Redirect.
What the hell was that question?
Sergeant, if the defendant was sedated, incapacitated, or not capable of partaking in an interview with you, what would you have done?
Not conducted one.
And is it fair to say that the recording in State's Exhibit Z speaks for itself?
Yes, it does.
No further questions, Judge.
May this witness be released by the state
Yes, Judge.
and the defense?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. You may step down. You may be released as a witness at this time.
Thanks, sir.
Well, that
State, you may call your next witness.
Judge, at this
cross-examination.
time, the state of Florida rests.
All right.
Well,
Gentlemen of the
state
jury, the
rests.
state having rested, I'm going to give you a break. There's some legal things that I have to do in the courtroom before we turn to the defense side of the case. I am going to instruct you again not to discuss the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else, also not to do any research related to the case. I will ask you during this break to have a discussion amongst yourselves and let Deputy Estea know how late you are willing to stay tonight. Also, if we do end up staying to the same amount of time that we stayed last night, just so you know, I will provide dinner again. I don't know if it'll be pizza from the same place or something else, but just so you have that additional information when you decide how long you might be able to stay to tonight. So at this time, all rise for the jury. Jury exited. Everyone may be seated. All right, Mr. Summers, the state of Florida has rested their case against you. What do you say at this time?
Your Honor, I would say that the defense moves for a directed verdict of acquittal. For failure of the state to provide a prima facie case against me on the first and second charge of premeditated attempted first-degree murder. The state has failed to provide any premeditation. And I add abandonment of purpose. The facts clearly show an abandonment of any attempts. The defense also moves for a directed verdict of acquittal for failure of the state to prove a prima facie case against me on the charge of kidnapping. The state has failed to prove the purpose of the kidnapping was for grand theft. And the state has failed to prove any intent to commit the crime of grand theft, the alleged purpose for committing the kidnapping. And on the charge of grand theft, the state has failed to prove any intent to commit grand theft. And on the two charges of sexual battery by a person 18 years or older, upon a victim 18 years or older, the state has failed to prove any intent to commit both counts of sexual battery by a person 18 or older upon a victim 18 or older.
Is that all, Mr. Summers?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. The standard on a judgment of acquittal is that I give the state all inferences in their favor on the evidence at this time. I've listened to the evidence. At this point, I believe that it is a jury question. The court is not to make decisions of fact. And I believe that they have put on enough evidence to present a question for the jury. So I'm going to respectfully deny your motion for judgment of acquittal on all counts at this time. You're welcome. So next is going to be your opportunity to present evidence. I told the state to instruct Sergeant Steele to head back. I don't know if he's here. Do you have any other witnesses? What we're going to do is we're going to bring the jury back in a few moments and allow you the opportunity. I'll say, Mr. Summers, call your first witness. And again, I'll remind you, I have not changed my position regarding it doesn't matter how long we go. When you're done with any witnesses today, whether that be, we're going to see what time in just a moment they're willing to stay. Do they know? Oh, okay. Well, we'll get that information in a minute. But if we're able to get through all your other witnesses tonight, whatever time it is, as long as it's before the time that they say that they're willing to stay, I will in court at that time and give you the evening to decide whether you want to testify. And if you decide that you do, you'll be the first witness in the morning.
Oh boy.
So who do you have? Do you have Steele?
Yes, I'm going to recall Detective Steele first.
That'll be your first?
Yes.
Do you mind telling me? You don't have to, but do you mind telling me? Because we discussed, I think you had a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I know we talked about one of, 9, 10. One of them, you decided not to call, the one available by Zoom. But after Steele, what do you think is going to happen?
Your Honor, there would be 4 others.
Okay. All right. So you saw the same way I do with the state. Once the witness is done, I'll ask whether they're released, and then I'll ask you to call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're very welcome.
Can we just be told who the 4 others are? I spoke to multiple people out there. Many of them have no idea what testimony they're going to be offering. One specifically told me it's going to be purely character evidence. And so I guess we can address that when he asks the questions. Is that how Your Honor wishes to do that?
Well, certainly. I mean, I expect that you will be making objections that you feel that are appropriate, and I will have to decide on them as they're raised. I'm not going to force him to tell you, but who he intends to call, I don't think it's appropriate. I'll ask if he doesn't mind telling us, same that I've done with the state. Mr. Summers, do you mind telling us who the other 4 that you intend to call are going to be?
I do not mind, Your Honor.
Okay.
They would be Jake Carr.
Oh, and hold on one second, just so I can put a note. You said
Jake Carr.
And there's I am a little concerned about his testimony. I don't know if the court's aware regarding my motion in limine on.
I don't see him. He's not one of the highlighted names that I have.
He should be one of the first or second on the list.
I see him. I'm sorry, he wasn't highlighted. The only ones that are highlighted are also in the state's witness list. Never mind. My highlighting is not what I thought it was. I got him. Jake Carr And State, you have concerns about.
I just want to, I don't know if the court's aware of one of the motion in limines. Mr. Carr provided some marital counseling to both the defendant and the victim, and I did limine any of that kind of testimony coming out.
That was granted by
That was
Judge
granted. Fuson.
Fuson?
I'm not questioning anything about that. I'm aware of the validity.
Okay. All right.
And there was another domestic incident that had occurred prior to the February 18th incident, which then caused Miss Summers and her children to go live with Mr. Carr. So if the defendant opens up any kind of door to that kind of testimony, obviously then we'll be eliciting that.
Well, certainly that's one of the risks that I'm sure that you
Completely don't appreciate.
understand, Mr. Summers, that through your question of any of these witnesses, you may open up doors, particularly like I heard them say that you think that you're going to question regarding your character. Well, that opens up the door, if it comes in, to allow them to potentially present evidence of adverse character. So those are
It's
all
nothing
right.
to do with my character.
Oh, okay. All right. But and anything else? I mean, I don't know. There is the possibility. I just want you to be very aware of it, that you may open other doors. And I was not aware of that motion. Let me thank you for providing it. But I don't know those bridges again until I cross them. I apologize. But we'll deal with objections if and when they come up. I'll remind the state that the state will also then have the opportunity to cross-examine the witnesses. So, did you want to continue? If you want to continue, Jake Carr.
I'd rather not go back and forth like this. So, talking about what I'm going to do with the witnesses.
Okay,
So we'll
and
just-
I'm not forcing you. That's fine. We may have to take breaks, and that's absolutely fine if we have to. 8 o'clock. All right. So it is 10 after 4. I just need a very short break, but I'll come right back in less than 5 minutes, and then ask you to call your first witness. You're very welcome. Thank you.
Oh, good Lord. He's doing this.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was saying.
Okay, so is he testifying? Was that what I'm to understand? Is he testifying in his own defense here? Oh Lord, it's going to be something. You know what he did? I mean, watching him trying to refresh your recollection when he hasn't laid the foundation for it. The prosecutor could have just objected and absolutely blown him out of the water. But they've got a life to lead. They don't want to do it because he would have sat there and tried for 3 hours. And then he can't refresh your recollection. He doesn't understand the concept of impeachment, which is what he tried to do like with everybody so far, and he just doesn't have the secret. I mean, I'm sorry, I need the therapy after sitting through it. The one thing he did do right was he did a motion for directed finding. That's appropriate. It was going to be denied, but he actually did a good job of that. I don't know because I didn't watch the trial about the attempted murder, because I just didn't see the evidence come in, so I don't know. But everything else that he's charged with, he's straight up admitted in that last tape, and he didn't touch it on cross. So the attempt murder might be interesting. I didn't watch the trial close enough to know. I'm guessing it's not. I'm guessing they've got goods on it. But I'm just saying I haven't seen that portion. I just didn't see that testimony come in. So, maybe they made those elements. Maybe they didn't. I'm guessing they did. But the kidnapping, I tied her up. I had a machete. I cut her. He was talking about how he didn't want to upset her, knowing the children were driving the car while he had her tied up. I mean, it's bizarre. It's out there. He doesn't. boy, he just hadn't learned anything. He spent a bunch of time in court, but he just doesn't have the first clue as to what to do with any of this stuff. It's so awkward. But that's understandable because it just takes a certain kind of training. But it isn't even a good pro se attempt, honestly. Like I was expecting just a better stab at it, but that's probably not a good turn of phrase with this guy. Oh Lord. Oh Lord. All right, let me see here. Oh, thank you, Lucky. You are the best. I didn't know this was gonna go on, but I've got to see this. It looks like he'll probably call the first witness, flounder around. They'll stop for the night, and I don't even know. I'm thinking right now. I wasn't planning on this trial at all. Thinking right now, trying to figure out if I can clear it out. The main thing I want to see. I want to see closing arguments, and I want to see him try to testify. So I don't know. I don't know if I'll be able to put that together or not, but I'm already thinking about that right now. But I'm gonna hang with this because it's getting on towards 5 o'clock. There's no reason to jam it because they're not gonna finish today. They just want to get some stuff done so they can finish tomorrow, is my guess. That's my guess. But I mean, if this goes into the evening, I'm gonna lose my mind. I am. All right. I'm gonna take a little break myself. It should be just a couple minutes. We'll be back. By the way, Rob, just hop on here. I sent you a link, buddy. You're not drafting that motion. You're not doing it. Also, John was supposed to stop in here. Last we saw John in the chat, he was Ubering. I don't know if he's Ubering across all of Tampa St. Pete there, but Rob can't hold back. He's like in the comments every 3 seconds, like, yeah, I'm drafting a motion. You're not drafting anything, Rob. just come on in. Come on in. The water's warm. I'm not cocktailing this time. I only do that on your channel. Destroy your stream.
One. Mr. Summers, do you have? I'm not holding you to this, and you don't even have to. If you're off, that's fine. You're off. But amount of time, because what I'm trying to do now is determine whether I should order them dinner. If we are going to be here till 8 with your witnesses, I'm going to go ahead and order the jury dinner, and we'd have to take their orders now. Unless we're going to take another break, and I prefer not to take another break. So I take their orders now, have it delivered around 6:30, give them a short break to eat something at 6:30 if we're going to go till 8.
Your Honor, I'm probably only going to be about an hour and a half with my witnesses.
Okay. Obviously, that's not taking into account cross-examinations, but I don't suspect that the cross-examinations would be too long.
I don't expect them to be.
Okay, yeah. So I tell you what.
Not yet.
Not yet. Let's see where we're at. If I need to take a short break to take orders around 5 o'clock, we'll do that. All right. Let's see how far we get. 5:30, and he's just making sure he has menus in case he needs to use them. But as soon as he's
good
done
Lord.
with that, is the state ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is the defense ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. And so is Steele here?
Yes.
Steele's here? All right. All right. Deputy said, let's go ahead and get the jury. Jury is present and seated. Everyone else may be seated at this time. Gentlemen of the jury, welcome back. As you may recall, prior to the break, the state had rested their case. Now is the time that we turn to the defense and allow the defense to present his case. Mr. Summers, are you ready to call your first witness?
I am, Your Honor.
You may do so.
The defense calls Detective Christopher Steele.
Christopher Steele.
Well, we're off to an inauspicious start here.
Welcome back. I'll just swear you back in an abundance of caution. If you'll raise your right hand. Do you swear any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, sir.
Thank you, Sergeant. If you'll follow the bailiff back to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair, watch your step. Go ahead, have a seat. Make Mr. Summers, you may proceed.
Good afternoon again, Detective Steele, or Sergeant Steele. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Just a few more things to go over with you. Did you attempt to interview me after any of these events on after March 13th?
No, sir.
Do you have a standard operating procedure on when to allow questioning or interviews of a witness into a report or a investigation?
I can't quote you an SOP number on that, but I can tell you as far as once you've retained legal counsel, we should be going through your legal counsel for that. So there wouldn't be any further contact from there forward.
I'm talking more specifically outside of Miranda. Does the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office have a standard operating procedure or guidelines for allowing witnesses to be interviewed at a hospital?
There is nothing that I know of in policy saying you can't talk to someone at a hospital. It's a pretty normal occurrence.
Do you know if there is a standard operating procedure about how to question witnesses at a hospital?
I could not quote it for you if there is. We have over 900 something SOPs. I unfortunately can't quote them all for you.
Did you look up those SOPs when you were putting the investigation together as to whether or not a witness could be questioned or how they would be questioned at a hospital?
I didn't interview you, sir, so no, I wouldn't have looked into that at all.
Awkward.
Did you check with your SOPs of whether or not to allow an interview taken at a hospital into the investigation?
There would be no SOP, I can tell you, that I would be aware of that would ever restrict us from going to a hospital to talk to somebody. That would, again, that's normal practice.
Okay. Do you recall the interview details that were given by myself to Detective Remia?
If you wanted to refer to a transcript, I thought would probably be helpful, but no, I can't.
In general, if I said, did you do this, would you recall that brief statement made in the interview?
No, sir. That would be Detective Remia.
Okay. Did you listen to that interview?
I have listened to it, yes.
Okay. Do you agree that there's a number of statements made by me in that interview?
Judge Leading.
Finish the question, but try not to lead the witness.
Do you believe that do you recall a number of statements being made by me in that interview?
I cannot say that I recall your interview in any great detail.
Okay.
It was not one that I would have been overly prepared for today since I wasn't testifying to it.
Did that interview have any impact on the investigation that you conducted?
The confession does have relevance, as well as the video confession and the written letter confession. Yes, all those things play into
Ouch.
as a factor into whether or not to charge. That's what you're asking.
Yes.
Well, that went well.
In that interview, this way. When you went with Detective Remia to search for the phone in Hillsborough/Manatee County, did you utilize any of the directions that I gave in that interview?
I wouldn't have been aware of any details at that point. No.
Okay. Do you know if the location that we were in Manatee County was anywhere near the location of where you found the phones?
Obviously, you were there at some point because the phone was there.
Let me rephrase. Are you aware that we stayed in a secluded place for 30 hours that weekend?
I believe during Elisa's statement at the District 4 office, she did make reference to, yes, y'all being together in the van for an extended period. I couldn't quote you the exact number of hours that she stated.
Okay. And did she tell you where that location was?
I don't think she could tell me an exact location. No, that was the purpose of us driving down there so she could show us where the phone was at.
Do you recall ever visiting a location that had a piece of construction equipment next to a large tree and a ravine and a farm?
I can't say I recall what you're talking about.
Okay. Do you recall how long the trip through Manatee and Hillsborough County lasted when you were doing the phone search?
When I was doing what search?
Searching for the phones?
With Elisa?
Yes.
We drove from the District 4 office to State Road 62, and I cannot say that I'm over that in any way, as far as I've made very few trips into Manatee County, considering I have no reason to, other than this case. Rough guess would be 30 to 45 minutes, but again, that's a very rough guess, trying to remember back, that location.
I don't have any further questions, John. I'll pass the witness.
Thank you. Any cross-examination of this witness?
No, Judge.
All right. May this witness be excused by the defense. I'm sorry. I apologize. Released by the defense.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. State, released. You may step down. You may be released as a witness of this.
Thank you, sir.
Well, that was an epic failure for the defense. Let's call another
Mr.
one.
Summers, I'll ask you to please call your next witness.
The defense would call Lisa Mathewson.
Ms. Matheson, if you'll come back down to the witness stand, please. Just like everyone else, I'll re-swear you in abundance. Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you may make your way to the witness stand. Please watch your step.
Oh, wow. This should be something. His ex-wife, the victim.
You may proceed.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Matheson. I wanted to go through a few things regarding the times between February and March of 2017. Do you recall what date you went and filed for an injunction in February of 2017?
The 20th was a Monday. It was a holiday and the courts were closed. So I had to file when they opened, which was the Tuesday, the 21st, because the event happened on a Saturday, the 18th.
And did you do that in person at the Hillsborough County Courthouse?
Because I did that at the spring.
And do you recall if I was served that injunction?
I wouldn't have been the one to serve you, but I was given the paperwork back that you were served.
Okay. Do you recall on February 22nd if there was a text from you to me asking when you would see the children?
That was my day to get the children. I didn't get the children on my day. So possibly I did. And then when I didn't get my children on that day, then it went through everything with my attorney.
Okay. Prior to February 22nd, had you attempted to get an injunction against me ever before?
Yes,
What date was that?
that was October 2016,
You remember what day in October 2016?
towards the end of the month, maybe the 20, no, it was towards the end of the month in October. I can't tell you the exact date.
Okay. Did we have a hearing on that injunction?
We did have a hearing on that injunction.
And at that injunction hearing, do you recall if what the judge's ruling was?
Objection, Judge. Improper. Relevance.
I'll sustain this to relevance.
Do you remember what time we had that injunction hearing on November 10th?
I can't recall what happened. Oh, I can't recall what happened in 2016 and what times things happened. No.
Do you remember if you had all of the children while we were waiting for a ruling on that injunction?
Objection, Judge. Relevance.
I'm going to allow it if she remembers.
I was granted temporary custody of all 5 children at that time.
Okay. And after that injunction hearing, do you recall coming to my house that afternoon?
I don't recall.
Do you recall between November 10th, 2016 and November 12th, 2016, if we were in communication?
Objection, Judge. Relevance.
Do you recall? Hold on. Between this, if we were in communication, no, I'll allow.
I don't recall, but it is possible because at that point I didn't have full custody of the children, so I was forced to communicate in time sharing with you.
Do you remember how many times approximately we met or did things with the children between November 10th, 2016 and February 18th, 2017?
I can't tell you how many times I had to meet you. It was twice a week to exchange children. That I know for sure.
Okay. Did do you recall if we spent time together as a family on the holidays in 2016? I'm sorry, at the end of 2016?
There is something called gaslighting, and it's twisting of the facts, using the children to manipulate and force me into staying when I bring them halfway through Christmas over to your home so you can spend half of Christmas with them, which is considered co-parenting, and then make me feel bad for not staying. That is gaslighting, manipulation tactics.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Mathewson, I wasn't asking about that. I was asking if
I answered your question.
I just needed a yes or a no as to whether or not we spent time together as a family on any holidays at the end of 2016.
The answer would be yes.
And did we attend counseling as a family and individuals between November?
Objection, Judge. Subject of a motion in limine.
Sustained.
I'll move forward. Who is Cheryl Danielson?
Objection, Judge. Relevance.
Sustained.
Between October of 2016 and March of 2017, were you in communication with any neighbors in my community?
Objection, Judge. Relevance.
Hold on. 2016. I'll allow her to answer that question. I'm not sure where he's going with it, but I'll allow that question.
I lived in that community for longer than I lived in my new community. And yes, I had friends in the Panther Trace community.
Was one of those friends Cheryl Danielson?
Yes.
Did Cheryl Danielson communicate with you about activities going on in my home?
Objection, Judge. Relevance.
Sustained.
Did you ever receive text messages from Cheryl Danielson concerning me in and around the time of these events?
Objection, Judge. Relevance.
Sustained.
In the weekend of March 11th, 12th, and 13th, 2017, do you recall the name of the street where we parked and stayed for approximately 30 hours?
I do not. I was not familiar with that area, and I did not see the street name. If I did, I told it to the police when I was first found.
Do you know if that place was relatively close to where your phone was found?
I don't know the proximity from where the phone was found to that location, but it was a drive. It's not like it was in the general vicinity.
Okay. You had stated that you had blisters on your heels, you said from being tied up. Why did you put on shoes if you had blisters already on your heels?
I needed to wear shoes to walk through such a dense area. I wouldn't be walking through and going on the treks that you had me going on barefoot.
Did you have flip-flops in the car?
I wouldn't wear flip-flops to go on the type of activity that you had me going on.
Did you ever make a statement to police that you had the keys?
Objection, Judge. Leading.
Not if she can answer the question with a yes or a no. Go ahead and finish the question.
Did you ever tell law enforcement that you were in possession of the keys on the weekend of March 11th to March 13th?
I do not recall.
Do you recall if you had the keys on you?
At no time did I have the keys on me.
Do you recall if you were ever in the driver's seat of the vehicle?
I don't ever recall being in the driver's seat of the vehicle.
Do you recall any of the discussions we had about what we would say to the police?
Objection, Judge. Asked and answered.
Sustained.
Do you recall any specific things we were planning on telling the police when we spoke on the weekend of March 11th to March 13th?
Objection, Judge. Asked and answered.
Sustained.
Were you ever concerned about what we would tell the police if we were
Objection,
found?
judge asked and answered.
I don't recall that. Maybe, but I don't recall that specific question, so I'll allow it. Overruled as to asked and answered.
Can you repeat the question?
Were you ever concerned about what we would tell the police if we were found or came back in touch with them?
At no time was I concerned if the police found us what I would be saying to them. At no time was I concerned about that.
Okay.
Boom.
Are all the facts in my interview correct?
No, they are not correct.
No more further questions, Your
Cross-examination.
Ms. Summers, when you had to drop the kids off when you were sharing them on Christmas, did the children want you to stay so that you could be a family on that holiday?
One child in particular, yes.
And what child was that?
Landon.
Was he the one that you had struggled with the most, or that he was struggling with the most with your separation?
Yes.
So did you stay to try and help the situation in your relationship with him?
Yes.
Why is it that you got an injunction in October of 2016 against the defendant?
I became aware of activity that Mr. Summers was involved in that caused me to start questioning him. He doesn't like to be questioned. He likes to dictate what is happening and doesn't like anyone to question him. So when I started questioning, it became obvious that I was in domestic violence.
Was there physical domestic violence that you were in fear of?
At this point, it started. At this point, it was starting.
What happened? Was there a specific incident that happened in October of 2016 that caused you to get the injunction?
I'm going to object, Your Honor.
I'm going to sustain it. We need to take a break.
We're going to need to take a break, Judge.
Let's take the jury out. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, do not discuss the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. Do not do any research related to the case. All rise for the jury. Jury is exited. Door is closed. Everyone may be seated. All right, Ms. Johnson, where are you going with this?
Judge, the defendant opened up the door. He's the one who brought up the October 2016 injunction. He asked her, "Did you get did you get an injunction?" Questioned her about it.
He
So
asked
now-
a bunch of questions that I sustained your objections to. There was some minimal stuff. So that's the state's position. He's opened up the door. So now what are you gonna get into? What is this altercation, or what are the specific evidence that you anticipate her to testify to?
Judge, I thought there was a violent act that had occurred that led her to get the October injunction, but I would need her to refresh my memory because I didn't even. I would never
let
go
me
there.
ask, you're asking a question now you don't know the answer to, that could potentially cause some harm to this case. You don't know the answer.
My understanding is that she got an injunction because she feared for her safety. I never talked about an October 2016 injunction.
I understand that.
And so the defendant is the sole person that brought it up, asked, he's the one that said, "Did you ever get an injunction against me before the February 18th incident?" That is open up the door wide open.
Actually, time out. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to step out. Hold on, Mr. Summers. I will eventually hear from you. I promise you. The witness has exited the courtroom. All right, Ms. Johnson. So yes, he did ask about the 2016 injunction. Now you're asking her what was the actual thing that happened that led to that, but it sounds like you're not sure what she's going to say.
That's my understanding, is that he has opened up the door to allow that evidence in by asking about it.
What evidence?
Why she
What
sought
is
an
she going to
injunction.
say? But what is she specifically going to say? Is she going to say that there's something related to the offshore accounts? Is she say something that one of the other motions in limine regarding his other activities? If I
Very careful, Judge. She could have brought all that out, and she is the one that specifically is dancing around it and not coming out and saying it, because she knows not to do that. But he has opened up the door so many times during this entire trial that
All right.
the state has not walked through.
Okay, hold on. What's your response, Mr. Summers?
Your Honor, I was objecting to misstatement of the facts. I asked if she sought for an injunction, and she's saying injunction as if the injunction was granted, and I never, you sustained her objection to me speaking about whether or not the injunction was granted. And now she's stating it as the injunction is granted, saying that she had an injunction and she did not. So that's why I'm objecting. I just asked a simple yes or no. Did you seek to get an injunction?
Hold on. Madam Court Reporter, I apologize to you. Can you go back to the question that he asked of the witness regarding the injunction and let me know if she testified that an injunction was granted or whether she sought an injunction, please? Injunction, please.
Oh, good Lord. I actually don't recall if it's effectively assuming facts, not in evidence. If she said there was some injunction, there wasn't.
Well, no, I want to read that just so they know. I'm not sure exactly the best way to do it. You tell me. I know you can't.
The best way to do it is to have them.
Yeah. So I want to read so they know what I am seeing.
The minute I start writing, it's going to scroll down.
Right.
What I can do is print a couple of pages. Otherwise, it's going to scroll.
I make a ruling that I can make.
Just looking to see if it came up anywhere else.
Yeah, I didn't see all of it, but I don't see why the prosecutor's going into it just because it's not necessary, and it's obviously getting the judge all jacked up. He basically admitted all the allegations except for the attempted murder in his statement. I don't know why we need to pile on. We've already established she's creepy, so as a matter of judgment, I probably wouldn't go there just because it's not worth it. It's a big fight over something that's already been established. Agreed. At this point, I would just withdraw the question and carry on. It's not needed. It's not needed. I mean, his examination of his ex was horrific. His examination of the officer was horrific. It's just not going anywhere, and they'd already proved their case, if you ask me. I'm wondering why we don't have any volume right now. It's on.
What I have, it's a couple of pages, just so that you all have it. I'm starting on page 302, line 3. Okay, prior to December, prior to February 22nd, had you attempted to get an injunction against me ever before? The answer was yes. Question, and what date was that? Answer, that was October 2016. Question, do you remember what day in October 2016? Answer, towards the end of the month, maybe the 20th. No, it was towards the end of the month in October. I can't recall the exact date. Question, did we have a hearing on that injunction? Answer, we did have a hearing on that injunction. Question, and at that injunction hearing, do you recall what the judge's ruling was? State attorney, objection, judge. The court, legal basis. State attorney, improper. State attorney, relevance. The court, I'll sustain as to relevance. Defendant, okay. Question by the defendant, do you remember what time we had that injunction hearing on November 10th? Answer, I can't recall what happened. Oh, I can't recall what happened in 2016 and what times things. No. Question, do you remember if you had all of the children while we were waiting for a ruling on that injunction? State attorney, objection, judge, relevance. The court, I'm going to allow it if she remembers. And then the answer, I was granted temporary custody of all 5 children at that time. Question by the defendant, okay, after that injunction hearing, do you recall coming to my house that afternoon? Answer, I don't recall. Question, do you recall between this November 10th, 2016 and November 12th, 2016, if we were in communication? State attorney, objection as to relevance. The court, hold on. The court, no, I'll allow it. The witness, I don't recall, but it is possible because at that point I didn't have full custody of the children, so I was forced to communicate in time sharing with you. Then question, do you remember how many times approximately we or did things with the children between November 10th and November 10th, 2016 and February 18th, 2017? Answer, I can't tell you how many times I had to meet you. It was twice a week to exchange children. That I know for sure. Question, okay, did you recall if we spent time together as a family on the holidays in 2016? I'm sorry, at the end of 2016. Answer, there is something called gaslighting and it's twisting. I don't need to read that. I'm going down to page 304, bottom 20, line 24. Question, and did we attend counseling as a family and individuals between November? State attorney, objection, judge, subject of a motion in limine. The court sustained. The defendant, okay. By the defendant, I'll move forward on who is Cheryl Danielson. Objection, relevant, sustained. Between October of 2016 and 2017, were you in communication with any neighbors in my community? Objection, judge, relevance. Hold on. The court, I'll allow her to answer that question. I'm not sure where he's going with it, but I'll allow that question. The witness, I lived in that community for longer than I lived in my new community. And yes, I had friends in the Trace community. Question, was one of those friends Cheryl Danielson? Yes. Did Cheryl Danielson? All right. Now I've read so much that I don't remember. There's nothing in there. Is it possible that it's somewhere else as to whether the injunction was granted, or is that all where he talks about whether one was sought? State, do you know? I mean, Ms. Johnson, do you know?
No, I don't believe I objected to his question when you asked if it was granted. I was just asking her what brought her to file for the injunction. If the court's going to allow it, if not, that's fine, Judge. We'll move on.
I don't know. I mean, I like to measure twice, cut once. I don't want to retry this case is my issue. So here's the problem I have. I think I need to bring her in, allow her to proffer the question, because normally when there's an objection and the witness she hasn't answered it. So I don't know what she's going to say. So normally I ask, what is the answer going to be so I can make a ruling as to relevance, hearsay, prejudicial, whatever. So until I know what she says, I'm sorry, but I can't rule on it. Now, if you want me to bring her in and allow her to proffer the answer so that then I can make an appropriate ruling, I'm willing to do that. If you want to withdraw the question and move on, I'm willing to allow that.
Withdraw it.
Move on, Judge.
All right.
Ding, 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 ding.
You need to say anything,
Yes.
Mr. Summers? All right, let's bring her back in, put her on the stand, and call the jury back out. I'm sorry. I just like to take my time. I don't want to try this case again.
I think the judge made too big a deal out of it, but he didn't know if somebody had misspoken. Assumed facts not in evidence, and assumed that there was an injunction that there wasn't, and that's an issue. And he didn't. He wanted to make sure the record was clean. I don't know. You probably didn't see all that, Rob.
I saw half of it. I have no clue. Is there an echo coming in?
Leave the
Yeah, that's
courtroom,
me.
But go ahead, come back and have a seat, and then we'll call the jury, or you could remain standing if you wish. Deputy Estea is going to go get the jury, and he'll let us know when he comes back to the door to stand. So it's up to you whether you want to sit, understand.
Man, they're going till 8 o'clock tonight, supposedly. Woo!
That's a brave jury.
I think they want to make sure they get done by the end of the day tomorrow. What could go wrong?
Be seated at this time. Gentlemen of the jury, welcome back. We're going to pick up where we left off. Ms. Johnson, you may proceed.
Ms. Matthewson, the defendant had asked you on direct examination if you had ever sought an injunction prior to February of 2017, and you stated you had in October 2016.
Correct.
Is that when you moved out of the family home?
Yes.
And then you were also asked in direct examination whether you would have been concerned about what you would tell the police if they found you. You wanted the police to find you.
Yes.
A lot.
Did. I did.
So you would have never had any concerns if the police were going to find you.
No.
And you would have told them exactly what you told them on March 13th of 2017.
Correct.
Nothing further, Judge.
Redirect.
No, I do not.
May this witness be released by you, Mr. Summers?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may step down. You may be released to the witness at this time. Mr. Summers, I'll ask you to call your next witness.
Mr. Honor, defense calls Sergeant Harrison Bashner.
Oh, I want him to testify.
No, the judge said no matter what, that if he chooses to testify, he's going to do it tomorrow morning, start it off.
Oh, that's right. He did say that. I don't know if I have things up. Thanks for coming by, buddy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm live on Eric's and at 5:30, and
Good.
I completely
evening
failed to
and
get my
welcome.
motion drafted, so tonight's
You'll come forward to be sworn wherever you're comfortable. Once you come through the gate, if you'll face me and raise your right hand, please. Thank you. You swear affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. Thank you, Sergeant. You can follow the bailiff to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair. Please watch your step. Go ahead, have a seat, make yourself comfortable. That microphone in front of you is fully adjustable. You might have to move it up some.
What incriminating questions is he going to ask this guy?
I mean,
Mr.
he
Summers,
is
you may
awful.
proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bashner. How are you?
Good.
Just had a couple of quick questions. Do you recall meeting me on a deposition recently?
I do.
Okay. And in March of 2017, or specifically on March 13th, 2017, do you recall being one of the deputies who responded to the Shell Point Road address when asked to?
Yes.
And could you describe to me what you saw when you arrived at that scene?
I was one of the ones assigned. We were in an undercover unit, so we were assigned to go try to locate the vehicle.
How did
As I
you get
I was
undercover,
going
you
down
big
Shell
man?
Point Road. I was looking for the vehicle in the roadway. I reached the dead end, went back the other way, and that's when I observed the vehicle. I stopped for approximately 20 seconds to confirm the tag. Once the tag was confirmed, I radioed in that I located it.
And were you involved in the apprehension of myself or the victim?
I made the approach to the vehicle, yes.
You did. And were you on the passenger side or the driver's side?
I was in the back of the vehicle. I never made it to the doors.
Okay. And did you recall seeing me come out of the vehicle?
No.
No. You stayed at the. Did you stay at the back of the vehicle?
I did the approach from the back of the vehicle. The other detectives made contact at the passenger door and removed by the time I got there.
Okay. And did you contact EMS?
I called EMS, 4 EMS on the radio based on their telling me that there was an injury.
Okay. And did you utilize the support of the aviation unit there?
There was a helicopter there.
Did you use? Did you utilize the support of that aviation unit?
No, I just knew that there was a helicopter there. I didn't call for them.
Do you have any idea of how long that aviation unit had been in the area?
No, I just know that they were there. I don't know how long they'd been there previously.
Okay. And after you contacted EMS, did you speak with any other individuals in that neighborhood?
I knocked on the door of the house and no answer.
Okay. Did you notice any other residents observing the activity?
I did not make contact or see any other residents.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
What size suit do you wear, sir?
None, Judge.
May
What?
this witness be released by the defense
Yes, Your Honor.
and the state?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, Sergeant. You may step down. You may be released as a witness at this time.
So we got that the
Summers,
police
I'll ask you to
officer
please
saw
call your
a
next
helicopter.
witness.
And called EMS.
Mm-hmm.
The defense calls
And that he's
Kyle
tall.
Summers.
Carol Summers.
Yes, Your Honor.
Also, that she had blisters at some point.
Wait a minute. Did he just say Carol? He said Summers. Isn't his last name Summers?
Yeah.
Is he calling it a relative?
Yeah. I don't know. He'll just call somebody to say he's a nice guy.
Yeah, I can tell you how this is going to go.
Good evening and welcome. If you'll come forward to be sworn wherever you're comfortable, if you'll face me and raise your right hand, please. Perfect. Thank you. Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God?
I do.
All right. If you'll follow the bailiff now to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair, please watch your step. Go ahead, have a seat in that chair. Make yourself comfortable. That microphone in front of you is fully adjustable.
Oh, I'm so uncomfortable right now.
Mr. Summers, you may proceed.
Good afternoon, Ms. Summers.
Good afternoon.
Excuse me. Mrs. Summers, do you remember being involved in the events the weekend of March 10th, 11th, or 11th, 12th, and 13th of 2017?
Involved in what way?
Do
With
you
the
remember-
children. We took the children.
Yes. And do you remember at what time you got to my house on Newberry Grove Loop on March 12th, 2017?
That was Sunday, right?
Yes.
Maybe 6 in the morning, 6 a.m., somewhere around there.
Do you remember what time law enforcement responded?
They were there before us. Dad went over first, probably maybe 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. I don't recall exactly which time, but I know it was early in the morning. It wasn't late out yet.
Okay. When you arrived, could you tell me how many law enforcement were inside the house or outside of the house?
I have no idea. A lot. I have no idea.
Would
Really?
you say just a few or more than 10?
No. Maybe 4 or 5.
Okay. Did they provide you with any identification?
No, I guess I could just tell who they were.
Okay. Were they in their Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office uniforms?
Yes.
All of them?
No, there might have been one. I can't really recall because it's been so long ago, but there may have been one in the like the office room, sitting in there. But it's been so long I couldn't say for sure.
Okay. Did you observe them walking through the home?
No, mainly they were just questioning the children, taking the children in the room, talking to them, and we were. There was a girl police officer, Angie. I don't remember her last name. I think she was with the police. Well, she had a uniform on. She was helping us with the children to keep the kids calm and so forth.
Do you know about what time you were there until on that Sunday?
It had to be lunchtime because I offered to go get pizza for everybody. And I went to get pizza. And then when I came back, we were like all just like we had to get out of the house in like 5 minutes because news media or something was coming and they didn't want the children to be subjected to that. So we hurried up and got the children out of the house.
Did the sheriffs tell you they had the authority to make you leave my home?
No, we were more or less just like everybody's got to leave.
And so when you left, were any of the children or anyone you knew still there other than?
Oh, no, all the children went with us, and Angie, she helped take the children. I think it was mainly to protect the children from the news media,
Okay.
from what I understood.
So when you left, the only people left at my home on Sunday were?
Yes.
Okay. And so you don't know what activities they were doing inside my home after you left?
I have no idea.
And on Monday the 13th, do you recall taking the children to get some additional interviews done?
Yes.
And did they provide you with copies of those interviews?
No, not that I recall.
Did they tell you what kind of information they were eliciting from the children?
I guess it was, no, I don't recall what they said. We just had to have the children there to do all these interviews.
Were the
I don't
children-
even remember the name of I remember it was in Tampa, but I don't remember the name of the location, what it was.
Were you allowed to be in the room while the children were
No.
being interviewed?
No,
Do you know who was in the room with the children?
nobody that I know of, just whoever was asking, I guess, them questions.
You believe they were, could you observe them being interviewed on their own?
No. We had like a playroom, like waiting room, where we waited with whoever was not in there.
So did they take the children in one at a time?
Yes.
Okay. There was no window or door
No.
that you could see through?
No.
Let me stop you. Don't worry. You haven't done anything wrong, but the court reporter is taking down everything you said.
Oh,
So you
that's
can't
fine.
talk over. I can't have two people
Oh,
talking.
okay.
So wait
I'm
till he finishes.
sorry.
You
I'm
may know
sorry.
what answer you're going to give, but wait till he finishes the question before you give it.
Okay.
Thank you.
At any time on the 13th of March, 14th of March of that week, were you contacted by anyone to see the children?
Objection, Judge, relevance.
It's the same.
Thank you.
No, you don't have to answer. On the 13th, did you then watch the children?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any other follow-up from law enforcement after the 13th of March? Do you recall?
Not that I can remember. It was just, might have been like guardian of whatever that is. Angie helped us a lot with things for the children because the children had no shoes.
Non-responsive.
Okay. Hold on, man. Listen to the question that he asked and answer only that question. Restate what the question was, or restate the question.
Did any law enforcement contact you other than Angie after the 13th of March 2017?
Not that I remember.
Did any law enforcement provide you with any contact information to reach them other than Angie after the 13th?
Not that I remember.
Okay. Then I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Good evening, Ms. Summers.
What was the purpose of that?
Trevor Summers is your son.
Yes.
And so the first time you learned that the children had been home all alone starting at 6:18 a.m. on March 11th of 2017 was when you got a knock on your door at maybe around 3 o'clock in the morning on the 12th.
Yeah, I'm not precise on the time. I know it was very early, or late, like between 12 and 3, somewhere around there, I think.
So you had learned that the children had been alone almost 24 hours.
We didn't know. I didn't know that. My husband didn't know that. We were just told an officer was with the children and would one of us go over to stay with them. So my husband went over at, I don't know, it might have been 4 o'clock in the morning. And then I came over at like 6 o'clock in the morning.
And then you had learned that your son and his estranged wife were missing. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you had no idea where they were?
Nope.
No further questions, Judge.
Any redirect? Yeah, you may.
Mrs. Summers, and do you know, or can you give testimony to any fact that law enforcement were at my house without you or your husband there?
Objection, Judge, beyond the scope of cross-examination.
Well, maybe, but he could recall her. So I will allow you an opportunity to recross on this. So I'm going to overrule the objection and allow it. I'll allow the question if you can answer.
Ask it again.
Are you aware if the children were in my home
Yes,
with
Bob.
law enforcement and not you or your husband?
Yes.
Were there anyone else that you knew or anyone else that I knew with the children other than
No.
law enforcement?
No.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
What's he suggesting?
Cross.
No, Judge.
They planted evidence.
Witness be excused by the defense. Yes, released by the defense.
Released by the defense, yes.
And released by the state?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down, watch your step, and you may be released as a witness at this time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have to tell you, for all the times that I redirected my mother at my own criminal trial, I have to say he did really well there.
Oh, stop. J. Davis.
Davis.
Yes,
Did he say he's calling Debbie Davis? I thought he said Debbie
Lord.
Davis.
Oh, that's what we need. Everybody here in the chat would love that. No, I think that was the whole idea, is that hey, the police officers were at some point alone in the house, so they could have planted evidence. The problem is they've got evidence all over the place, and none of it needs to be planted.
Evening. Welcome.
Yeah, it's called a
You come through the
confession.
gate, and wherever you're comfortable, sir, if you'll face me and raise your right hand to be sworn as a witness. Thank you. Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
This guy a coroner?
All right, thank you. If you'll follow the bailiff now to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair, please watch your
You run a
step.
funeral home?
When you
Seriously.
get to that chair, go ahead, have a seat, make yourself comfortable. That microphone in front of you is fully adjustable. Mr. Summers, you may proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Davis.
Mr. Summers,
Would you state your name and profession for the jury?
my name is Jay Davis. Davis is spelled Davis. I'm a private investigator working for Global Protection Agency, which is a JAC-approved agency. From there, I was selected to work this case.
Okay. And during your involvement in investigating this case, were there any public knowledge websites that you were able to cross-reference with some facts that were alleged in this case?
Yes.
And was one of those facts information that's readily accessible about marine traffic?
Yes, I utilized it.
Hold on. Let's take that.
Where the hell are we going?
Relevance and simply Googling something to learn information would be improper evidence and testimony in this.
Yeah, so I am going to sustain as to an improper foundation at this time. I'm going to sustain. You can
He keeps
re-ask
referencing
for-
his own
I'm gonna
escape
sustain the
plan.
objection.
It's insane.
Mr. Davis, is there any special requirement to obtain information on marine traffic in and around the Tampa Bay area?
No.
Okay. Were you able to identify through public knowledge marine traffic in the Tampa Bay area?
Objection, Judge.
Legal basis?
Relevance.
Yeah, we're going to take a break. Gentlemen of the jury, do not discuss the case amongst yourselves or anyone else. Please do not do any research related to the case. Short break. All rise for the jury.
I'm very confused and very interested to where this is going.
This is Tampa. Where's John? He was supposed to be on here.
I don't know.
He's in trouble with
Jury
me.
is exited. Everyone may be seated. All right, Mr. Summers, what's the relevance of this?
Your Honor, there's been a lot of testimony about this supposed charter boats and these kind of things, and Mr. Davis is
Yes.
qualified as an
In
investigator.
your confession, for instance.
Let us know if there is such charter boats, or such charter boats have such schedules according to the publicly available marine traffic information.
What?
Well, I mean, that's not exactly the question that you ask. And so ultimately, what you want to get from him, and again, this is like the situation before. I need to know what his answer is going to be before I determine it's relevant or not. But you're asking about marine traffic. Ultimately, are you trying to get out of him whether charter boats are available in the Tampa Bay area?
Specifically, Your Honor, the victim has made statements that there
Whoops.
were that I was supposed to reach or get on charter boats between certain times, and I was going to ask Mr. Davis if any charter boats were available between those times. Any boats, any marine traffic. So
Oh,
that
good
was-
Lord, you said it.
Yeah,
He
did you
said
catch?
it.
Did you catch the Freudian slip? Like he goes, the victim.
No,
Not
I
a good look.
don't see the relevance.
Yeah, well played.
I'm going to sustain. Is that the objection that the state, that's what you said. Do you have any other objections?
No, Judge, I mean, simply Mr. Davis was asked to Google this information, and that's how he found it out. I mean, we can't just ask witnesses to Google information and then call them as witnesses to get in.
All right. Well,
this
that's
kind of
different than
evidence.
relevance, though.
Yes.
But so relevance and any objections related to that, his source of the knowledge.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I'm going to sustain the objection, Mr. Summers. So you're not going to be allowed to ask this witness that question about charter boat schedules.
Please tell me that was his only purpose.
Let's get the jury back.
Please tell me that was his only purpose.
I wanted to ask the witness if he knows Jeremy DeWitt.
Going to ask, but I anticipate there may be a lot of the same kinds of information and objections being made by the state. So I don't know how you want to handle that.
She's sassy.
Sometimes, like some of the previous relevance objections, I was comfortable that there's absolutely no possible relevance to. This time I had to investigate further because there has been talk about maritime traffic and charter boats. So that's why I said, let's hold on and let me see where we're going with it. I mean, again, though, the state, you're proceeding at, your own risk. If I sustain a relevance objection and in some subsequent proceeding, he's able to show that I should have ruled differently and allowed it into evidence. So that's how I'm going to handle it at this point. All right, let's get the jury.
I like the judge, though.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. He is bending over backwards for the defendant, but they usually do.
Look at the judge's clerk. She wants to be anywhere but here.
Yeah. Hopefully this is it, and then tomorrow this could be fun because it's him testifying and then closing arguments. That's a zoo.
I really wanted to be productive.
You get this, Rob. My viewers did this to me. I didn't know about this stupid case, and then I got into it last night.
Yep.
Jury is present and seated. Everyone else may be seated at this time. Gentlemen of the jury, welcome back. Mr. Summers, you may proceed with this witness.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. I'm going to have to jump
Steve,
off in a minute, so I'm going to say bye now.
Able to ascertain
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
any information in your investigative capacities about quit claiming a piece of real estate to another person in Florida?
Yes.
And is that public information?
Yes.
And can you tell us what the requirements are to quit claim a piece of real estate to from one party to another?
Oh, God.
Judge, foundation and relevance, and it would be the similar objection.
Okay. Mr. Davis, is it possible to transfer a piece of property in Florida through a handwritten note?
With
Objection,
extras.
Judge.
Hold on. Basis?
His answer would be relying upon the same basis and foundation that the state has continued to object to.
Any other objections related to this?
Relevance as also.
Move forward. Mr. Davis, in your investigative capacities on this case, did you do any research on whether or not I owned 1137 Newberry Grove Loop in Riverview, Florida?
Yes.
Objection, Judge. Same.
I'll allow this one. You can answer the question.
Thank you. Yes, I did. I pulled a comprehensive report on your name, and I see that you do not own that property.
Okay. And Mr. Davis, during your investigation in this case, were you able to research any information on the transfer of a car from one party to another?
Objection, Judge.
Hold on.
Same basis. Foundation, relevant, and yes, the source of his answer, where he got his information.
Sustained.
Mr. Davis, during this investigation, were you able to research any information about the transfer of assets in a bank account from one party to another?
Objection, Judge.
Legal basis.
It's the same as I have been objecting. It is foundation, source, and relevance.
All right. It appears to call for a legal conclusion as well. I'm going to sustain the objection.
Mr. Davis, did you were you able to, during this investigation time, research whether or not I even had bank accounts at Bank of America?
I'm sorry, Judge, I couldn't even.
Just speak up a little. Re-ask the question, but you might want to use the microphone or speak a little louder so that State can hear your question.
Okay. Were you able to research whether or not I had bank accounts at Bank of America?
Objection, Judge.
It's all right. It's late. Legal basis.
Foundation, source, and relevance.
I'm going to allow this one.
I have no knowledge of you having a bank account with us because I was focused on many other tasks in my investigation, so I cannot answer that.
Okay. Mr. Davis, during this investigation, were there any other, I'm sorry, let me ask this. Did you listen to the interview that I gave the law enforcement in a hospital?
Yes.
And were there any other facts in there that you were able to investigate during your time as an investigator?
Could you be specific?
Were there any other specific items that you would be able to attest to as an investigator of whether those specific facts were true or not?
Judge, I'm going to object this to an open-ended question, improper.
I'm going to sustain.
Okay. Mr. Davis, when you listened to the interview that the police conducted in the hospital, did you make a list of the individual facts or statements that were made in that interview?
Yes.
And did you attempt to see if those individual facts were correct or not?
Judge, I'm going to object to calling for his opinion regarding the facts in this case.
I'll sustain.
Okay. Mr. Davis, during this investigation, were you ever able to complete the work that you were required or that you were requested?
Objection, Judge. Relevance.
Sustain.
Okay. Mr. Davis, were you able to evaluate the evidence in the state's property during this case?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I could not even hear the end of the question.
Go ahead and restate the question a little bit louder.
Were you able to evaluate the evidence in state's property during this investigation?
I was able
Objection,
to.
Judge.
Hold on, don't answer that. Yes.
He is not an expert in order to evaluate evidence.
Well, the question at this point is whether he was able to do it or not. So, any other objection?
Relevance.
I'm going to allow him to answer as to whether he was able to evaluate anything.
I was able to evaluate items that were in the discovery for this case.
Is that the electronic discovery?
Yes.
You were not able, then therefore were you unable to inspect any physical evidence in this property, in this investigation?
In the time that I was allotted and the steps and procedures that have to occur, I was not able to evaluate physical evidence that was in police custody.
Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Johnson, no, hey, hold on. They get an opportunity.
No, I got you.
All right. Oh, no problem. All right. Ms. Johnson, I've been called a lot of things, but George is a new one. So come on down and do the cross if you wish.
No question.
May this witness be excused by the defense?
Yes.
Released by the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the state?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You may step down. You may
Oh,
be released
praise
to
the
witness at
Lord.
this time. Watch your step.
I mean, he didn't
Mr.
get
Summers,
anything.
did you have another witness
He
outside?
didn't say anything of.
If you have any other witnesses here today that you want to call, go ahead and call your next witness.
No, Your Honor. I do not.
Okay.
have any, so-
All right. Okay.
Yay!
Gentlemen of the jury, we're not going to say, I know you that I appreciate and thank you for being willing to stay until 8 o'clock tonight. I'm not going to stay. We're going to finish for the day. We're going to come back and start at 8:30 again tomorrow morning. You missed out on dinner. Had we stayed till 8, I would have bought you dinner, but it was Jimmy John's. It wasn't pizza or Eddie and Sam's like last night. But I need to instruct you at this time not to do any research related to the case. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. We are going to pick up in the morning at 8:30. Please have a safe trip home. All rise for the jury.
Well, there you have it.
Seated. Wait till the door closes, and it is closed. All right, Mr. Summers. I suspect that you're the only potential witness at this time. Is that correct? Okay. I want you to think about it, sleep on it, and let us know in the morning. Now, when I ask you, that's the first thing that I'll do in the morning is address you, and they call it a colloquy, where I ask you questions about whether you've had sufficient time, and that's one of the reasons I'm giving you overnight to do that. And I'll ask you what your decision, if you've made a decision, what your decision is, if anyone's forced you or threatened you in any way to make that decision, just so you know what the questions that I'm going to be asking you tomorrow. And just to go over the procedure again that we discussed earlier, so you know all of the things and any other things that you should be aware of. You will testify in a narrative. I will swear you in front of the jury, just like I've done all other witnesses. You will come down to the witness stand, and then you may testify. As I said, the state may raise objections. I don't know what objections, but any objections that are raised, I'll rule on at the time. I do not know whether you have any prior criminal history, but one of the things that comes up when a defendant testifies is if they have certified copies of prior convictions, that opens the door to that. So I just want to let you know that. Let me actually ask, say you have any copies of certified convictions for Mr. Summers?
Yes, Judge.
What's the number?
We have 4 worthless checks, Judge.
Ouch.
So crimes of dishonesty.
Okay, so misdemeanor crimes of dishonesty. All right, so they intend, if you take the stand, to
Misdemeanor crimes of
introduce
dishonesty,
that,
okay.
not the nature of state. You don't intend to say what they are, just
He answered incorrectly.
oh well, yeah, I'm going to get to that. But they're going to ask you at some point whether you have ever been convicted of any felonies or crimes involving false statement or dishonesty. They're indicating they have what they believe are 4 that would be an affirmative.
I bet they do.
To that. If you acknowledge that, then that's the end of it. The jury doesn't hear what the charges are. If you don't acknowledge that, and they are actually entitled to introduce the certified copies of conviction. That's why they have to have them. And then they will go back and the jury will see the certified copies of conviction. I just want you to have all that information and know all of that while you're considering your position, whether to testify or not.
I understand that, Your Honor. And I didn't get a clear answer, but is also when those crimes occurred available to the jury, or just the fact that they were convictions?
Well, that would be up to you. And if they ask about it, you certainly can provide additional facts. Those are the only facts they can go into. But if you want to go into details of it, you're absolutely entitled to. All right. Anything else? Anything from the state?
No, Judge, are we going to do the charge conference now?
Well, not till I just am uncomfortable until he testifies, or makes a decision. Obviously, it would be perfect if we knew he wasn't testifying, but it'll be a good point for a break. We'll go through, but I appreciate that very much, Ms. Johnson. Mr. Summers, I want you to read, I think it was the proposed instructions are 60 pages long. Okay. Now, some of them we've already given, and it's actually going to be page 14 through 60, it looks like. Do you still have that copy?
I believe it is here, Your Honor.
Well, I want to make sure you have one. We'll print you another one.
I have them here.
Oh, you do have it. All right. So, very important homework tonight. Read those instructions. After you rest, whether you testify and then rest, or whether you rest before you testify, we're going to have a charging conference. We're going to go through one by one each and every one of these 56 pages, and I'm going to ask whether you're in agreement to the instruction. I honestly haven't read them yet, but I suspect that they're standard instructions, and I will address any objections that you have to any of the instructions, and also at that time consider any instructions that they haven't proposed but that you wish to propose. You understand that? All right, so read these instructions so that it'll go smoothly tomorrow.
John, this isn't Tampa. You're
Notice,
in, whether you like it or not.
Neglect of a child.
Tell me what page.
25.
Mr. Summers, if you'll turn to page 25, please.
The initials of the child in count 2 should be BS, B as in boy. I've updated that on the electronic copy. I just wanted to let you know and Mr. Summers know while he's going through them this evening.
And I appreciate, and if this is the stack we'll that we're going through, I'll scratch through it tomorrow, or we'll print out that, and you let us know any other changes that may be different in that stack. But I appreciate that. And Mr. Summers, if you can, at page 25, just acknowledge that the actual proposed instruction changes the initials. All right. Anything else from the state?
Nothing from the state, Judge.
Anything from the defense, Mr. Summers?
No, Your Honor, I'm good.
All right, everyone have a good evening. I'll see you in the morning at 8:30.
Well, there you have it. All right, John. I don't know. I haven't even checked my schedule, but I'm going to look at it. I think I can do it. I'm not sure. I have to do it. I really have to check with the boss, Yesenia, namely, and see if I can do that. But tomorrow I don't know how I got sucked into this case, but I can't not watch now because all we've got left is this. Okay, there's a jury instruction conference in there, which is not going to be good, and it'll just be a break. But the substance of what's going on tomorrow is him testifying and then closing argument. Oh, it's going to be deliciously awful, the whole thing. I didn't see the rest of the trial, but that's okay. I've seen enough. I've seen enough to form some opinions, shall we say? That just got really crazy. His witnesses, he was just all over the place. He calls his ex-wife and says she has blisters on her feet. That was the big revelation there. I mean, the other ones, they just made no sense. They made no sense whatsoever. So his case, I don't know what. I guess the best thing he got. The best thing he got was his mom to say, although he didn't get it, he had to go to redirect and get a lien from the judge for it. But he got the mom to say the police were in the house alone. Oh, of course they were, and that's no big deal, and it doesn't matter. But that does open him up to say, hey, the police just made stuff up and planted it in my house. It's not going to work, and nobody believes it. But that is the only thing I could see that is functionally potentially useful. It isn't, but that's all I can see so far. on that, but I really do want to see him testify. I really do. He didn't understand either when the judge was saying, "Hey, they're going to ask you, have you been convicted of these crimes?" And when you fight about it, then they're going to say, "Okay, fine. We offer these self-authenticating exhibits into evidence." And they might even read them in on the record. If not, the jury takes them back into deliberation and looks at them and says, "Oh yeah, the guy's a thief on top of someone who does these things." Yeah. So it should all be pretty fascinating. I would guess that I don't think we get a verdict tomorrow. I mean, I could deliberate on this thing pretty fast. I don't think we get a verdict tomorrow, but just because those jury instructions, and it depends on how long he rambles in his testimony. It really does. I don't know. I didn't know about this case before, but I got sucked into it. Him cross-examining, it was bizarre. I only got the first bit, but that's fine. I'm sure he did 2 or 3 more hours with his ex-wife, but it didn't matter. He was going nowhere in the first hour. Other than it was just awkward, him cross-examining a woman he was married to, doesn't know how. I mean, he's really not a very bright guy. He just doesn't know what he's doing at all. Hasn't figured it out. He thinks he has, which is even worse. He's just so far off the reservation in terms of practicing law. But then everything he does just reiterates everything that he did wrong. He's talking about tying her up and machetes and cutting her. I mean, it's just bad. It's bad to the core. But I can't look away. Thank you all for coming out. I appreciate it. I rarely do this. I think the last time I did this is I got swept up in, certainly the Depp case. Certainly the Depp case. Although this puts the Depp case in context. Like, Amber Heard was trying to say Johnny Depp was this guy. I mean, now we have this guy. I mean, that's the difference. That's what it looks like. Okay. You can bring him into court and have him testify. You can see a difference. I mean, this one isn't there yet, but that's my impression so far. All right. I will do everything in my power to be there. That's going to be early, 8:30 in the morning Eastern time. So that's 7:30 my time. John, you are in. This is in your county. Clear your schedule. You're gonna come. You're gonna come sit through that with me, brother. All right. Thank you all for coming out. I will see you soon.